All right, guys, what's going on? We're here, we're live. Welcome to a brand new Poker Live podcast, live from Las Vegas, Nevada. My name's Joey Ingram, aka Chicago Joey. Joined today by a young gentleman who I don't know. Should we? I think he's a scoop main event winner, but also like very, very good at other things in life. You're unlike many podcast guests we've had on. Many people have been curious about you. You post a lot on the 2+2 poker forums under Raidalot. They're like, can you get Raidalot in the podcast? Can you get Raidalot in the podcast? I'm like, I don't know if he's going to want to do a podcast, but now here we are. We're on the podcast. We got Talal Shakerchi, aka Raidalot on Pokerstars. What's happening, man? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Are you? Have you ever done anything like this before, where there's like a little camera sitting on top of an amino energy and a protein shake thing, and microphone sitting right there?
I think it's safe to say I've never done anything like this. The protein, the two bottles of protein holding up the camera is absolutely unique.
Well, you know, sometimes you got to improvise. We're here at the guys. We're here at the Rio Hotel Suites and Spa. We're out here at the World Series of Poker. A couple things before I get started with the podcast, guys. Tonight, if you happen to be in Vegas watching this live, there's an upswing poker party tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern at the Encore Players Club. Free drinks, women, all that type of stuff. I've been posting World Series of Poker video blogs where you can find me disheveled. You do video blogs? Are you one of those guys that stays awake playing poker all night and then 7 a.m. you kind of wander back to your room at the Bellagio and kind of zombied out like that?
Yeah.
That's you?
Yeah. Poker. I do poker. I have to do some emails and stuff for work, and that's it. No, I don't really have much time for anything else while I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, now I thought you were living like a clean life. Like you went to bed at midnight each night. You're out in Vegas. You woke up at 7 a.m. You did some work. You drank your tea.
Yeah, no, it is a clean life, but it's not. It's full up of just poker and work essentially. When I'm out here, there's not. I haven't got time for lots of parties like you.
Well, debatable five time, but okay. Last thing, upcoming podcast. We're gonna be having Fedor on at some point. I'm gonna have Liv Loree on to Liv, fellow country woman, right?
Yeah, she went to the same university as me.
Really?
Yeah.
I love Liv. Liv's awesome. We're gonna have Liv on. We're gonna have Dan O'Brien on, and I've got new merchandise. GTO's Way of Life shirts, each league PLO. We love fun player. We love fun players. Up. You see? Would you wear a We Love Fun Player shirt?
No.
Why not?
I always wear plain stuff. I had to buy this.
What you got there? Oh, you get this $50 World Series of Poker hoodie?
You know the old scam, they make it so cold in the poker room.
That's what I thought too. Is that why they make it cold at the Rio?
Go out and buy one of these hoodies. So I never wear anything with writing on normally. I hate branded stuff, etc.
You hate branded stuff?
I have a WSOP, whatever this is, Las Vegas top here.
It looks warm.
$70 from bargain from the.
Yeah, for those of the people that don't know, that haven't been to the series, they keep the Rio approximately 35 degrees Fahrenheit. And they make you have to wear 2 to 3 layers, and you still stay cold. So
so everyone comes here to Vegas, packs for 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right, exactly. And then they come here and they're like, wait a second.
It's freezing in there, and every year I do. Every year I make the same mistake. I should just bring something from home that's warmer.
In theory, right?
But I think I'm going to Vegas, and I pack all the t-shirts and stuff.
Right.
And then I don't know why I don't remember every year, but every year I end up buying one of these things.
You are
leaving it at home.
You are kind of busy.
Yeah, okay. Still, you'd think I'd learn.
All right, well, let's tell people a little bit about you. So for those that don't know about Talal, I'll tell what I know about him. I know a little bit. So you've been playing poker now for, I'm not exactly sure how many years. You're involved.
About
8 years. So you're very involved in the hedge fund world, and I only know what that means from the show Billion. Shout out to Showtime. Shout out to Billion. Shout out to who's the guy? The guy that made Rounders, I believe, made that Billions. You know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, I think Brian.
I haven't seen Billions actually.
Well, you said it'd be like a ridiculous depiction of hedge fund
I imagine
world, right?
Yeah, most stuff on TV isn't like the real world. It would be far too boring if it was.
Yeah. So you're big into hedge. What do I even say about that? Like you're big into hedge funds, or you're a hedge fund manager? I'm in the hedge fund world?
Yeah, I'm a hedge fund manager, which means I'm in the hedge fund world.
Okay, so you're in the.
But I'm less active as a hedge fund manager now. I used for a lot of time for let's say 20 years.
Okay.
I was a full-time hedge fund manager.
Okay.
Then about 2 years ago, I scaled back the business so that now I don't spend so much time doing that and I have more time for other things.
So you mentioned to me you're like 1/3 that, you're 1/3 philanthropy, and you're 1/3 everything else poker sort of lumped in that sum.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and you're also, for those who don't know, he did win the scoop. How do you win the scoop? I just don't understand. So let me tell you this. So Raidalot, right? Smart guy, posts on 2+2. guy, he's known as a hedge fund guy, and then he wins the. I was like, how does he win the Scoop main event? How is that impossible? I don't.
What is it? Is it not allowed for someone?
You typically don't
to
like.
Win
you typically don't associate one of the guys who's known as the businessman, as they put it in poker. You don't associate that guy with taking down the Scoop main event for $1.4 million. I mean, I was like, man, how incredible is that? That's just so like that's awesome.
Yeah, but anyone can take down one event. But it's I think just being a businessman doesn't make you bad at poker. But what it does mean is you're not a full-time player. So
right.
It means you can't be a full-time professional, which means you can't because you're not focused just on poker.
Right.
You would therefore assume it's harder for those people to reach the same level as, let's say, the top pros, and it is.
So when people use the term businessman, do you feel like that's a derogatory term that people may like? Do you take that in some sort of personal way, or do you think, oh, I am a businessman? That's.
No, I am a businessman, but I don't see it as derogatory. It's fine. I enjoy being a businessman. It's part of what I am, but I don't think it means you can't play poker.
Right.
It depends how seriously the person takes it. It doesn't matter what they do with the rest of their life. It's how much time they put into poker and how much effort. How much they study the game, how seriously they're taking it. I think those are the things that matter. The same as for anybody else.
Yeah, I think most times when people think about like the businessman, there's a couple guys who get on TV a lot, the Bill Perkins, and I guess Bill Perkins is the first one that comes to mind when they associate the businessman, from like the Pokerstars big game shows. But when they associate the businessman, they associate a guy that isn't necessarily serious about poker, isn't like studying poker, working at poker. But then the other side is you hear people say, well, these are really smart people who are very successful in their field. They're probably not just going to go, all right, like whatever, I'm not going to learn about the game at all. They're going to study the game and learn the game too and get better.
Yeah, I think it depends on the individual. I mean, some businessmen might play poker for fun and not take it too seriously, and they don't want to take it too seriously. They're probably smart enough to understand that it means they're going to lose on average over time.
Yeah.
Other businessmen probably take it more seriously and want to treat it as a more serious hobby. And I'm more in the latter category. I do put a lot into the game.
Right.
Over those 8 years, I've studied a lot of the game. If you saw my house, you'd see something like 100 or so books, maybe 100, 120 poker books on my bookshelf. Lots of videos from the days before they even had the video training sites.
Really?
Yeah, but it tends to be just videos of WPTs and stuff, which
so you're sort of like
teach you a lot.
So you're a very student of the game. You're very in love with poker. It sounds like.
Yeah, I like the game, but for me, if I'm doing something and I'm going to put my effort into something, mm-hmm. I want to do it well. I don't. It's not fun for me to be mediocre at something. Mm. I mean, sometimes I can't help being mediocre at things, but I'll try my best to be good. The things I do want to do, I try my best to be good at them.
Interesting. So you started playing poker about 8 years ago, and now you're like starting the Scoop. You were basically grinding like a full Scoop schedule. The low events, the medium events, the high events.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
Why is that incredible?
Because it's just not like it's like not a common thing. Most people that don't necessarily play for the money, I guess you wouldn't feel like they would even play the low events. You know what I mean? They just feel like they would play maybe the medium or highs, and that's just sort of all they would do.
Yeah, but that's well, it depends what you're playing for. But for me, I'm playing because I enjoy the competitive element mm-hmm. of poker. All those scoops are interesting in their own right, and also once I'm there playing, if I'm going to turn up and reg anay for, let's say,
for the other ones,
event,
you might as well.
Let's say on a day there's 3 Scoop events, and there'll be 3 of each, low, medium, high
mm-hmm.
each, so that's 9 events. So I'll just do it. If I'm there anyway doing those events, I'll just do all of them.
I guess it's also kind of incredible considering you have a full-time job.
Yeah, but
I mean that's sort of like I think that's the part I find a little more because so.
Yeah, no, but that's not true. Because so I said for the last couple of years, I've scaled back what I'm doing work-wise. Mm-hmm. So now I can take the 2 weeks out for school.
Okay. So now you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, I still have a little bit of business stuff to do, but I can fit that in comfortably, in the other hours around Scoop. But if you go back more than a couple of years, I wouldn't be doing the full Scoop. I'd just maybe do the weekend events or a few events, particular events, something like that. But not. I didn't do the whole schedule. So it's only this year and last year that I've played, pretty much all the events, or vast majority of the events anyway.
So you did play the Super High Roller Bowl, the 300K event, right? That was here. You played that?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And then so you do play a lot of the high roller stuff or the super high roller stuff?
Yeah, but I don't play that many events a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going around to all the EPTs, etc. So this year I've played live, I've done PCA, that's super high roller, 300K, and now I've been in Vegas for the last couple of days doing WSOP.
You just got fifth in the Bellagio. What was it, 50K buy-in or 25K buy-in? 25K buy-in. You have fifth in that. Pre-podcast run get obviously on your side. You cashed in another World Series of Poker event. Yep. You're probably going to win the one drop, and you're probably going to final table the 50.
Probably going to win the one drop.
I mean, listen, I'm never jumping to conclusions. I'm hopeful. I have high hope here.
That would be post-podcast run.
Well,
do you have that as well?
For sure. Usually it's post. Usually it's post. I feel like when you just get in the podcast aura, you kind of like, you're just feeling good. You're feeling happy. You're feeling energetic, positive, and then
it sort of peaks around the podcast, and then both sides of it, you still get some of the aura.
I'd like to hope so. Yeah. Cool. I'd like to hope that we can prove that. Maybe
we should do another one in 2 weeks' time. Then.
We could after
then I'll have a bit of pre and post.
Well, you might win the main. You could win the main event around that time too.
Yeah. We could get this sort of pre and post working together to sort of create a crescendo of language.
Dare I say GTO? I mean, if you say so, I'm in for that. Wait, how old are you?
I'm 52.
52. So 52, you don't necessarily have to focus on the business anymore.
No, I mean, there's some business work to do.
Right, but not as much.
Yeah, but not as much. And let's say about a third of my time is business.
Okay.
And a fair amount of it is flexible over time. So, like for Scoop, for example, I can clear 2 weeks of my diary and not do any major business stuff during that period and just do it on a kind of maintenance basis. The exception is if something blows up in the markets, then I have to focus on that. Then I would just stop whatever I was doing. Even if it was mid-tournament, I'd just stop and focus on that, whatever that is.
So with all the stuff that's happening over there in I know I'm not a geography pro, so all this stuff with Brexit, I'm just not going to specify where it's happening.
It's the other side of the Atlantic. This big blob called Europe.
Isn't that all? Well, okay, Brexit. How does that impact you? I don't want to specify where exactly it's located overseas. I just want to say Brexit.
Well, it's to the right.
It's to the left.
Down a bit. Yeah.
It's to the left of France, right? To the left of France. To the left of France. So to the left of France, there's a big thing there, and that's where
that little blob there. There was actually a few blobs. There's a big one, and then
what are you, are you a geography pro or something? If we get a globe out here, you're gonna be able to map out the globe, or what's happening here? I live in America. I know all the states. Where's California?
That is on the West Coast.
Okay. Where's Maine?
No idea.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I do. It's on the East Coast.
Okay.
It's north. It's up the top end of the East Coast.
Okay.
New England, isn't it?
You're right. Okay. You're good. I can tell.
That's about all I know about it.
I'm not going to quiz him. I trust you. Wait, how does something like that impact you? Is that something where you have to hop back in and make the hedge fund more of a focus for you for a time?
Yeah. I mean, not so much now, but in the run up to and at the actual time of the vote, that obviously was a focus because it has a lot of market impacts. But then it's kind of like you dropping a stone into a pond. You get a lot of ripples initially, and then it sort of calms down a bit after a while. So we've had the big ripples, and now we've still got some smaller ripples going on. But the big stuff's happened as far as Brexit goes, and the markets.
Interesting, I guess. I mean, we know, around here on the podcast, we don't know much about the hedge fund world. I got to be honest. All we know is from the show Billions,
right?
And all I know is Axel. He's like yelling, screaming. There's a lot of insider trading, allegedly. So. I don't know how much. I guess you probably can't talk about that too much, right? Because I'm sure the competitors are out there. Shout out to the competitors. Shout out to people who are probably like, is there people that like look up to you in that industry? People who sort of, say we got in poker, we got some of the best players, and people look up to them. They want to be like them. Yeah. Is it work similar in your industry as well, where people look up to the guys that are having a lot of success?
I suppose so, but in the hedge fund world, well, it's a bit like in poker. You have different forms of poker. So, PLO, you love PLO, you grace PLO. Other people maybe, they play limit hold and what. There's lots of different forms of poker.
Not many.
And it's the same in the hedge fund world. I mean,
so are you in the limit hold?
There's not just one big thing called one big blob of hedge funds. There's a lot of different types of strategies. So in our strategy, which was, forgive the jargon, long short European equities, which means basically we invest in stocks mostly in Europe. And we take positions. We make bets that the stocks will go up, and we make bets on other stocks to go down. In that arena, we were one of the top hedge funds. So, I guess in that little pool, which might be like, I don't know, limit Raz or something. You could say I was let's say one of the top players in that pool.
You see the end boss of the limit Raz equivalent in the hedge fund world.
I know what the equivalent is really, but yeah, I mean, like you know, in the hedge fund world, it's easy to see who's successful or not because it's all measured in numbers, much better than it is in poker. You know, you're getting measured much more accurately. The sample size is effectively much better, and you have to sustain the good numbers year after year after year. So, you know, in poker, somebody can have good years and bad years. In the hedge fund world, if you have a couple of bad years,
you're not a hedge fund anymore.
You're not a hedge fund. You don't have any clients anymore.
Right.
And the average hedge fund lasts about 3 years. So most don't even really get off the ground. People launch them, you know, they last a few months. A lot don't raise enough money because they don't get the track record and they go bust. Others raise some money and then after a couple of years, they have a couple of bad periods and then they're out. So to be successful at it, you have to deliver, and then you have to keep delivering quarter after quarter, month after month, and that's tough. I mean, it's really tough business. But you can see who's successful because you just look at their returns, and you have to. It's slightly more complicated than just looking at how much the returns is like how much money the player makes in poker.
Right.
You also have to look at the variance of those returns. Is the fund consistently making money without losing a lot? Is that's much better for an investor than somebody who, on average, makes a ton of money, but they can also have huge swings. So sometimes they're losing, you know, they might lose 30% one year and make 50% the next.
So,
and the other thing that's important is how well you do in the most difficult market scenarios, because in a way it's easy to make money when the market's going well. Anyone can do it. Your mother can do it. You know, you just
shout out to my mom.
Yeah,
shout out to might be watching. I don't know. Maybe could be.
Joey's mom.
I doubt it.
So if Joey's mom is investing in a bull market, you know, usually she can probably do okay. What's tough is to make money when things get difficult. When you're into unusual market circumstances, or the market's going down a lot, or there's a lot of volatility. That's what sorts the men from the boys in the hedge fund world.
So you've been around for 20 years.
Well, running a hedge fund, I've been running money for close to 30 years.
Wow.
But a hedge fund for about 20 years.
So obviously the last 20 years you have to be one of the men. You can't be one of the.
Yeah.
You don't make it that long.
Yeah. You to keep going for that long in the hedge fund world. Yeah. You need to be delivering. Definitely.
So what made you, I guess, get into poker?
Well, I first got interested really because we invested, as a fund manager, I invested in some poker companies, Party Poker and 888.
Okay.
And then just almost as a way of understanding more that business, I played a little bit online to see what it was like. And I just liked it, got into it. Quite early on, I won I played on Party Poker, and I played a tournament, which I didn't realize it, but turned out to be a satellite tournament. and so I played this tournament and was one of the winners. And then that meant that satellite, it was some tiny thing, like a $30 tournament, $20 tournament. But if you won, you then got into this other tournament, which the prize for that was you got a World Series main event seat. Okay. So this was
like a little steps sort of thing like that.
So
right?
I won it in the first one, got into the second one, won that. So now I got a main event seat. So now I have to think, well, God, do I go to this? Because you couldn't cash it in. So you just, do I go or give up the 10K? So I thought, well, I'll go.
Might as well.
It might be interesting. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I like poker, and I thought it might be an interesting experience. So I went along, and I really liked that. And I played a few other bits and pieces around it. A couple of tournaments at the Venetian or something. Just maybe I was there for a week. Oh, I don't know. This was.
Okay.
This is like 08.
Okay.
So I liked it, and so it just kind of took off from there.
So this was yeah, I know Venetian. Oh my God, Venetian. So this was 2008.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 08.
You know, it's funny.
I might be out by
when you told me like 8 years, in my mind, I'm like, all right, 2003. No. I started playing in 2007, so that's what I mean. It's like I've been playing for so long now. So I can't believe like this many years in poker, 8-9 years.
I know it's a long time.
It's crazy.
And so it's changed a lot even in that time. I mean, from pre-03 to 08, it would have changed enormously. But even from 08 to now, it's a very different game.
Shout out to my little brother in the chat, Tutu Angel Cool, aka Big Dog, aka Arstic, aka Stallion. What's up, buddy? I hope you're enjoying your summer. I'm sorry that I can't be there, and I hope to see you very soon, my friend. My little brother, he's been on the podcast a couple times too.
Cool.
So I know what's up? His name's Andrew. Tutu Andrew Cool.
What is it?
2-2 Andrew Cole.
Is that his whatever?
Yeah, 2-2 Andrew Cole. Yeah.
Where is he? Which one's he?
Right there. 2-2 Andrew Cole.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Mini Poppy Stallions is our nickname. He's got a bunch of nicknames too. So
yeah, I don't get all this Pappy thing. Like, it's suddenly everyone calls you Pappy.
Poppy, yeah. Poppy.
Pappy, yeah. Who decided that in the first place?
I can't remember the origin story behind this, but
whoever it is, if they're watching, they should send it in to tell us why and when this happened.
I think my friend Marco actually maybe pointed it out at some point in time, but I don't remember how it got started. And then I just started saying words, hola, como moza, papi, papito, calamosa, calamoracita. I just started saying things. I don't know. Just make things up.
All right.
You know?
Okay.
You don't make things up ever? You don't make up words?
Not a lot. Not a big
you don't have like hedge fund words like around the stop, like I don't know, some like British word mixed with a hedge fund word.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
You have like your own little lingo and stuff like that.
That's true. That's true. There is a kind of lingo. Yeah.
What's one of the words?
Oh God.
Can you give us one?
I'm trying to think. You put me on the spot. I just can't randomly think of one. But
okay,
I mean,
think about it.
There is a kind of like two hedge fund people talking to each other might use a kind of language that's a little bit different, but a lot of people might not understand what they were saying because they're talking in a way that's using some words that people aren't familiar with. Right. It's the same thing, I guess.
I guess so, except I'm just making up a language. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so wait, 2008, you start playing poker. You go get the main event. And after that, you're hooked. You're in. You're invested in party poker. You're invested in 888.
Yeah.
You want to learn more about poker. Win a main event seat. Come out here. Play a couple events. Play the main event. What did you think when you were out here? Were you like, this is dope. Like this is cool. I want to play more. Or I guess what's your first thought? Because 2008, I believe it was kind of booming. It was pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty booming out here.
Yeah. I thought it was good. There's a lot of interesting people in poker. You meet around a poker table. You get a lot of different characters, and yeah, that's interesting. And I guess I like the competitive element. You're just sitting down and playing in tournaments. I enjoyed that. I used to play chess a lot.
Oh,
you can play chess. You're a chess
grandmaster chess player, depending on your point on what chess is. Well, chess so back in the day, back in the 1800s, they used to use chess as a way to initiate a date between a man and a woman. So they'd be like, "Oh, we're going to play chess." And their version of chess, that would be like them.
This is more lingo.
Right. So I'm actually a verified grandmaster of the world when it comes to chess.
Okay.
But I played a little bit of traditional chess, maybe the chess you might be referencing. Right. But in terms of the actual chess, what it was invented to be, yeah. I mean,
you're a grandmaster.
Debatably, yeah.
The master.
And let's not get carried away. I'm not gonna pat myself on the back that hard. I'm just saying I'm played some chess in my time.
That's why you work on your tan too.
I know it makes sense, right? Yeah. I'm not married yet. I mean, I'm assuming you're probably married. You got the kids, the family, there. But me, I'm still 31. Shout out to me. Happy birthday to me. I'm
still working on your chess game, yeah.
I'm trying to share with the people, trying to.
Excellent.
So you played chess and then.
Yeah, what I was going to say, I used to play chess, which also you have tournaments. So I used to enjoy those. This was when I was a kid, basically. I used to play chess tournaments.
Okay.
But then when I was an adult and I got into the finance business, I just couldn't keep up with the chess because there's so much theory in chess.
Yeah.
That if you want to be really good at it, that is definitely a full-time job. Whereas poker was better for me like that because there was much less theory around, and you could get into the top levels of poker without the same amount of study as in chess.
Bang bang.
I mean, it's still hard, and today there's a lot more theory than was there. When I started in 08.
Listen, people are dying to give away theory. Yeah. Talal, sit down. Let me teach you how to be the best player in the world. Like they're dying to give it away now. Yeah, is it like that in the hedge fund world? Like are people just like, Joey, have a seat. I'm gonna teach you how to fucking be one of the best hedge fund people. How do you find that as somebody who, is in this other world? How do you find that element of poker specifically? Do you find that weird, or do you find that like? I don't know. I'm just curious because I look at it. I'm like, it don't make sense. Why would you want to teach someone? Like, why do you want to teach a smart guy to be really good? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to ask the people who produce the stuff what their motivation is. But I guess they do it. They must see it as a net benefit for them of making money, or they just want to give to the game in some cases. I guess it depends what their motivations are. But it's not a surprise. There's so much information out there. There's a lot of money to be made by producing it. So some people are going to take advantage of that. a lot of the stuff isn't written by the best people anyway. I mean, it's not.
Bang bang.
It's not all fantastic.
You said it, not me. I mean, I'm not saying that.
And I guess once there was some of it out there, it was and the poker boomed. I guess it was always gonna mushroom.
Yeah.
I think where poker went wrong in that regard wasn't so much books. And even the video sites, they also help people a lot, and that's changed the game. But I think HUDs was the big mistake that poker made, poker as an industry made, because I think that changed it. That changed things a lot. It made it easier for people to play more mechanically. So it changed the nature of the game, and it also brings forward rapidly the time when the game gets solved. And it makes it less attractive for new players as well, particularly casual players, because they must get to hear about this stuff, and it must sound quite scary to them.
Right, like they're
playing against people who've got numbers all over their screen, and doing it. In their heads, these HUDs are doing all sorts of analysis. I mean, there's a limit to what information they provide, but in the mind of a casual new player who's coming along and they hear about them, they're probably thinking, well, do I really want to play in that kind of environment? It wouldn't be better for me to take up some other hobby or go down to my local casino or whatever. So there's a number of reasons, I think, why HUDs have been a mistake for the industry. I don't think books are a mistake. I think to some extent books probably attract as much
as they harden it up. Yeah.
And I think that's okay. And same with videos. I mean, some of the stuff on videos is appalling. It's really. I mean, some of it is actively bad. It is.
You want to name some names?
No, I'm not going to name any names. Well, you watch videos, right? Do you watch any videos?
I watch a lot of PLO videos. Yeah.
Tell me that there isn't some crap mixed in there.
Well, most of the guys making PLO videos are pretty good. I feel like if someone was making a bad video, they're going to get called out straight away. Like, all right,
well, it's not okay, not bad, like just terrible, but there's a lot of it. There's a lot of stuff which doesn't actually say anything. It's just commenting on what just happened. Almost.
Right, and that's
it's not really doing any.
It's not super
analysis.
informative.
No,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And some of it I think misleads people by it makes it seem as though decisions are made on very few considerations, and if that's all the consideration those players are using,
well, that's kind of
what they say. If what they say is all they're thinking about when they make those decisions, then that's not a good way to play.
Well, that's kind of what they say is sometimes some of these high-level videos, when you watch them, you're actually maybe hurting your own game because the information you're taking in, you're applying it, you don't really know how to apply it. So you see, as you mentioned, you see someone do this and you think about applying it to your own game, and then the reason you're applying it, you don't understand. And you're sort of like doing something because you've seen it, you don't understand why you're doing it or why it works, and then you end up maybe setting yourself back a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that sort of thing probably happens pretty often. I guess that's I guess that's why maybe there's some sites like Upswing Poker now. It's a new site. They're going away from the traditional video model instead of trying to walk you through exactly why you're doing what you're doing, rather than just sort of showing you what you're doing and then just leaving you out there to figure it out for yourself. So there's like a new form of poker training, and is that good or bad? I don't know.
I haven't seen it, but I mean, I think some of that stuff I think is fine because it helps people develop and progress it as a kind of hobby. So, I think that's good. I mean, it's good.
I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's good too.
It depends on the level of it. I mean, the danger is, I suppose, where we're heading anyway. It's just a matter of time. Is that the game becomes either solved or let's say at least close enough to being solved that no one has an edge bigger than the rake. At which point it's dead. At least online poker is dead at that point. Like backgammon,
So I guess
like poker.
We can get to like online poker stuff because there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. You've been pretty vocal about the Pokerstars changes with with all the rate changes, taking away the VIP program, and fucking sorts of things they've done. So I guess it would. Let me give some questions from Secta. Secta on 2+2 asked a bunch of good questions too. So where should we start with this topic here? I mean, overall, like, what are your thoughts on poker? Have you ever invested in Pokerstars? Thought about it? Have you been following along with with the progression of Pokerstars and the way that they've taken changes? And do you think it's because it's amaya that's why all these changes sort of have happened?
I don't think it's just because it's amaya. I think some of this would have happened anyway, but not to the same extent. I think if to understand, you have to look back to where we got to where we are. So if you go back when I started playing poker, or let's say before that even, party poker was dominant. So party poker had about the share, when I invested in party poker originally, it had about the share of the market that Pokerstars has now, let's say 2/3 roughly of the market. So it was a dominant player, but you had a lot of competition. There were other sites, because it was seen as a growing business. A lot of companies were investing money and were willing even to lose money to grow their share. So it was still quite competitive, and so the players got looked after because the sites were fighting over them. So you probably remember in your early days of playing, bonuses all over the place and special offers, and all sorts of deals to attract people, etc., etc. So that was good for the players. It was competition. That's what from the players' point of view, what we want is what would be ideal is like 4 sites, all with about a quarter of the market, fighting it out with each other for the players.
Yeah.
And then we get to say, well, I'm going to play with you because
what a great idea.
You'll give me the best.
Wow.
Yeah. Wouldn't that
what
be
a great idea. Holy moly.
But we're not in that position. And it's never going to be quite like that because of the nature of the nature of poker is that there's a kind of a benefit of scale. So whoever gets the biggest is going to tend to grow bigger, because once all the players go there, then everyone else has to go there. So you play on Pokerstars because everyone else does. It's not just Pokerstars' great software, or it wasn't Party Poker's great software that got them 2/3 of the market. It's just that's where everyone played. So if you wanted to be a serious player, you had to go there. So Party Poker had the market. Then obviously in whenever it was October 2006, some politician in the US tacks on some little thing on the end of a ports bill or something, and gets to the
IGEA? UIEGA.
Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement. Yeah, UIGEA.
Yes.
And then we had Black Friday, obviously, and we had that. That's ultimately what led to Black Friday. So, but at the point of UIGEA, they could have come up with a better and more easily pronounceable acronym. But anyway, so at that point when that bill was passed, Party Poker pulled out of the US market, and all this history, and that crippled them. So then we had and then we had another good period when Tilt and Stars were fighting it out. So that was great for players again. So it was 2 serious competitors really battling it. Then when Black Friday happened, and effectively, we know the end game, Tilt got wiped out, and Stars became the only surviving big player in the market. And now there's no serious competition really. There's no Tilt fighting Stars. There's no Stars fighting Party.
Actually, why do you think that is? Because I've always wondered this as well. Why? It seemed like almost like the sites sort of stopped trying. In a way, it seemed like I don't know. It's
they did, because it became like once Party Poker pulled out of the US, it became a much less attractive business for them, and also because of the scale benefits. When the number of players reduced, they had to start reducing costs very, very, very rapidly.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're the second or third player. It's really tough because a lot of the costs are fixed. If you're running a poker site, you've got to have some software and servers, and you've got to have people doing certain things. You've got to have some accountancy department. A lot of that stuff is more or less fixed, regardless of how big the site is. So part of your costs are just the same, regardless. If you have 3 times the players, you can spread those costs amongst more players, so you can be more profitable. The smaller sites, they're struggling. I mean, it's difficult to get enough revenues to cover the fixed costs,
so I guess the fixed costs are that much of something like a microgaming. I just had Alex Scott, the microgaming CEO, on. So for someone like their site, their fixed costs are that high to the point they can't really be spending that much to get they're just not making enough to really extend business.
Yeah, I don't know their particular economic. I mean,
right,
it depends on the site, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to convince investors or CEO to invest more money into something where you're struggling to make money already. And especially when it's a business that's seen as shrinking rather than growing. When the business is growing, everyone thinks, well, it's worth investing a ton of money to try and grab some of these new players. When essentially we're just not.
Right now we have more and more countries pulling out. I think the stars announced there's like Israel or Slovenia, and now it's more and more segregation happening.
Yeah, that's a regulatory nightmare, and it's just not a growing business anymore. And I think the sites smaller sites, it's not worth them investing to try and grab a bigger piece of something that's shrinking. So I don't think we're going to see really strong competition again unless something dramatic changes now.
So essentially, what you think is going to happen is Stars pretty much has free reign to keep making these decisions, to keep being able to make more and more money for themselves, because the players don't really have any other option, and there's not going to be another option anytime soon. So it's almost like you have to make it work here, or you fucking quit. Basically, you can't. The
players could do something about it if they acted as a group.
What do you mean? How do you think? How do you think so?
Well, as individually, it's not worth you stopping playing on Stars and going playing on, I don't know, AAA to party. If the best games right now on Star, that's where most of the players are. Or for me, let's say I'm playing tournaments, I want to play Scoop. There's nothing like Scoop equivalent really on any other side. That's the big tournament.
There could be, right? 888. There could be.
It could be. Yeah,
you could start your own Scoop, guys. I mean, hey, I have an idea.
I wish there would be more.
Why isn't there more? I just don't get it.
Well, those sites do tournaments. I mean, there was a party poker series at the same time, but they're not as big.
I just don't hear about it. I feel like you just don't hear about these sites like happening. Like you just don't. I don't know. It seems like you don't hear about them.
Yeah,
maybe.
I guess because it's just Pokerstars has become so dominant. Yeah. But so individually, it's not worth you doing. But if let's say even 10 or 15% of Pokerstars players said, we're not accepting this, we're going to move if you do it, and it was credible, then of course they would. You
think that would impact? It seems like almost Stars wants to drive the regs away from the games and take the winning players, take the guys that are cashing money out of the games.
I'm not sure that's a particular strategy. I don't know that that's true. I think some people think that's the case, and some of their actions would make it look like that.
Right.
But I don't think it's that as much as they've moved from a position where part of the strategy was to try and attract those high volume players, and to particularly make it more attractive for them, to one where they're neutral to them. They don't care whether they just what I think they see as what's important to them is to get the casual players, and because that's where you get the net deposits, etc. I don't think they're trying to necessarily get rid of regs. It's, you could look at it and say it's bad for their business because to the extent the regs get them win money off the fish, then Pokerstars don't get that money.
Right.
But I don't know about that. I don't know we've seen enough to say that's definitely the case, and it's an active strategy on their part. I think it's a consequence of some of the things they're doing, but I don't see it really as an active strategy.
Yeah, I wonder. I feel like you don't really hear much about what's happening in online poker right now, outside of like the Scoop and the W Coops, whereas in past years it was very much fueled poker's popularity. And I guess the thing I'm worried about is that if these games start going more and more away, and then online poker becomes less of a place where things are happening, well, that just makes poker's overall interest much less. You have less people starting in the game, and I guess it sort of has this effect where it just dwindles poker's overall popularity. And
well, that's where we are now. That's what's happening.
Yeah, it's sad.
But poker is shrinking, and it will shrink more and more as edges get smaller and smaller, and as Pokerstars ramp up the cost of playing.
Right. So what do you foresee happening with more Pokerstars changes? Don't give them any ideas, by the way. But
I don't know. But their strategy is in a business sense is a logical one in a way.
Right.
It's kind of standard business school stuff. When you have a large player in a declining market, you move it into what you call cash cow mode. So you don't spend money trying to grow it and invest it. You just try and milk it. Yeah, that's what they do. And it's especially the case when it's owned by private equity. That's their standard approach. Just milk the business for everything they can and then move it on.
I wonder if poker would be as popular if that was the original approach that everyone took. I think it was as popular as it was because Isai Schamberg, shout out to Isai Schamberg. I'm gonna find him one day in Manor Island, give him a big fucking hug, and I'm gonna hug him, pat him on the back, take him to what I'm gonna take him wherever he wants, man. But I remember I was talking to my friend Adam Small, had him on a podcast, and he was talking about, Isai had a dream. He had a dream that he wanted this poker site to be the best poker site where all the poker players in the world could come play. And then once he sold the site, well, now that dream's dead. The dream now is to just take as much money as they possibly can. So it seems like it almost might be someone with that dream again.
Yeah, but I don't think those kind of good old days are coming back. I think we've moved on from that, and it's not just the transfer of ownership that's changed. It's the structure of the industry, right, and the decline of the business. So already some of this stuff was starting to happen in a smaller way before Amaya. And I was pointing out on TwoPlusTwo before Amaya took over, look, Stars is starting to abuse its monopoly position. But I think the difference between Isai and the Bazov is I think Isai did have a kind of approach that was a mentality of building it and growing it and looking after the players, making something that was good, and the players would come. And I think that stayed. It's not suddenly going to change. It kind of stayed with that kind of ethos stayed with the company. And then when he left, the ethos now isn't the same. Now it's a business. How do we get the most money out of this business? So it is different, but I think we're already starting to see a trend in this direction. I don't think Isai would have done the same things that have been.
I just imagine he probably would have.
But some of this would happen. Some of this kind of stuff would have happened, and it would have been very logical for it to happen. As a business, it would be kind of crazy. It'd be almost a charitable donation by the owner to poker players if they didn't take advantage to some extent. Okay, but I just don't think he wouldn't have done anything like as brazen. Couldn't
you say like the approach that how do you say his name? Isai?
I don't know. Isai or Isai?
Isai? I thought it Isai. I don't know.
I've heard it pronounced different
all right, ways. Let's go Isai. I feel like if Isai doesn't take that approach that he took of giving money away, essentially, he doesn't get to be as successful as it becomes. He doesn't get to be what it becomes without. I mean, so you could say if you sort of kept that approach. I guess there's been people that argue this approach. If you kept that approach, just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean.
Yeah, but it wouldn't keep getting bigger.
You don't think it would keep getting just because with more legislation, they're cutting out more players and everything.
Yeah, it's just, and also, there was a big boom, it was a big fad, and that's
so kind of like the fad's gone now.
Yeah, there's less poker on TV, less people want to watch it. There's less interest in poker. It's kind of, there's only so many new 21-year-old guys coming through who want to play.
I think that's because it's, as you mentioned, it's not on TV. It's sort of like this snowball effect of that's why there's no Americans really coming up there like that, because it's not on TV. There's no content out there. There's really nothing out there for them to see. There's nowhere to play. Whereas if they had the option to play somewhere, it wouldn't be declined, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, if Americans was always the big market. If Americans had more options to be able to play more conveniently, I think poker would be bigger. But I think it's, if you X out these kind of regulatory factors, I think it's also past its peak as a business. And I think, the way you manage the business is different in different scenarios. So when it was growing, it was very logical to look after the players and fight for them and be seen as the place that looks after the players. And that was what they did. And Pokerstars is the best run site and always was the best run site, the best managed site. And it has most of the best people you meet in poker in terms of poker business management are at Pokerstars. At all levels, they have good people doing all their different business activities that you bump into. So I think it was always well run, and not that the competition was great when you look at Full Tilt and
But you were invested in these other companies, the competition. You're invested in Party Poker 8.
Yeah,
why don't those sites just adopt the Stars approach that Stars was taking with things?
Well, they should. I mean, they weren't as well managed as Stars. Stars was always very well managed, and
but you don't think that could have been emulated by these other companies then?
Well, they should have done, but not all companies could do it. Remember, it's a very young industry. A lot of the people managing these businesses are, it's not like you've got models going back 20 years of how to run a poker business. They're all new people into the business, and they came from other industries, or a lot of them just came out of poker. I mean, if you look at Full Tilt, for example, the people running that, they were just poker players. They came out of the industry. They weren't businessmen. They weren't professionals.
Wait, you're telling me Howard Lederer, Chris Ferguson weren't business? Ray Bitar, they weren't businessmen?
Shocking.
Really?
Shocking.
What a surprise, man. I don't know. What do you think about them returning to the World Series of Poker, by the way? Is that something that...
I don't know. I mean,
they come back here now 5 years after the fact.
Yeah. I think the question is what did they know is the real question, because what Full Tilt did obviously was wrong and bad. So they were essentially paying out player deposits as dividends to their shareholders, to these poker players who owned it, so that they couldn't cover the deposits, and that was bad. That's a scam. And there were two levels of that. One was this thing where they were paying out these. They were sort of taking these. I can't remember what it was, like deposit checks and crediting them without
being processed.
So that was level one. That was kind of. I think you'd put that at the incompetence sort of end of the scale. But even if you took out all of that value, all of those checks, they still couldn't cover. Even if you said all of those checks were honoured, they still couldn't cover player deposits. So they were still paying out money from players' deposits to shareholders, and that was wrong. And if you were anyone who knew and participated in that decision, that was bad. And I think shouldn't be welcomed in poker. They've scammed players, and I think I think you can't really say for certain that Howard and Chris were in that position. I think Howard, from what I've seen, Howard looks much more in the frame than Chris.
Right.
I mean, Howard's given all these interviews and so on, but when you listen to the interviews, this issue gets skirted around. Was it Matthew Parvis interviewed him? I think.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Matt, or it was Rich. Might have been Rich Ryan. Right? I mean, it was one of the guys. Yeah, Poker News.
But basically, these crucial points, Lederer was able to kind of skirt around the questions.
Yeah.
So he's never really been put on the spot and properly answered the question of, did you know and approve of these payments, knowing that was player money? If he did, I can't see why he should be welcomed at the World Series. And the same with Chris. I mean, he's never gone on record and done the interview, so it's harder to say what his position was.
Right.
Personally, when I look at them as individuals, just as a, like when you have a read on a player at a poker table, there's no information here, but my read,
no insider information.
Just as characters, my read would be that Chris is a good guy. He's a bit of a geek. He likes poker. He's interested in the sort of technical and numbers side of poker. I can't see him as an individual who would deliberately scam players. I find it hard to picture that with Chris. Howard, I just don't know. I don't want to slander somebody or whatever the word is on without the information. But my read, I couldn't make that same read with Howard.
Right.
I don't. I can picture. The way he talks, the way, just the way those interviews were conducted. They weren't straightforward. The answers weren't clear, particularly at these crucial points. I think that and just his general demeanour makes me less, have less of a read on him, the same as I would as Chris. But I could have it completely the opposite way around, or they both could be completely innocent, or they both could be completely guilty.
Someone's got to be guilty out of the situation, right? And
absolutely, someone's guilty. But,
right.
But it's crucial. Yeah. And you also have to find the line between incompetence and guilt, and incompetence and malicious, scam, skullduggery and theft, or whatever you would call it. But basically, somebody stole player money in effect, and how much these guys knew and how much they're involved with that is very hard to say. The people inside know, but we don't have all the information to really know.
Are there any parallels to the hedge fund world in terms of something like this happening, and then essentially the guys just nothing happening, and they go away for some years, they come back, and that's it?
No, I mean, if anyone stole client money in the hedge fund, like Bernie Madoff, he's in the slammer for life. That's what
the extreme example, but extreme example. I guess Volko's an extreme example. That's a good point. That's true. That's true.
If somebody gives you their money into your business, you're in a position of trust with that money. You're not, it's not your money, it's their money, and you're in a position of trust looking after it. If you give it to somebody other than them, especially to yourself, that's jail time. In any industry I can think of. I mean,
So you couldn't just take most of the guy's money, shut the fund down, come back 5 years later. I'm back with a new fund, boys. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go again.
Let's go. You couldn't do that again, huh?
I mean, some people might argue we steal the money anyway by charging such ridiculous fees, but that's a different thing. But that's all up front. Right. This is what we charge. You can pay it or not. It's different from give us your money, we'll look after it, and you play poker, but secretly on the sides,
that's the part that seems crazy.
Shipping it to your friends.
Right, that seems crazy to me. Like you're paying out essentially all these other guys who aren't necessarily active in poker still, but were very active then, and there nothing happened. I mean, I don't know. I think nothing happened, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
There was some consequences, but it wasn't jail time.
Right, they got some money taken back or whatever, got some money confiscated or
settlements.
Settlements, right? It does seem pretty.
I mean,
it seems crazy that they're back. I mean, once we talk about it like this, before I was like, but do you think it has something to do with maybe the settlement they have with the government in terms of they can't say anything? But if they're innocent, like, couldn't they say they're innocent? It just,
I don't know. I mean, it maybe they find it difficult to speak because they're worried about incriminating themselves, or it might. There may be some grey areas that the government could make a case if they said something, or they may be worried about incriminating other people, that other of the individuals.
Right.
I don't know. Or maybe they just think it's better not to speak about it because whatever we say, people are going to hate us anyway, which might be true. There are a lot of very annoyed players who.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who. Did you lose any money on full tilt? Were you a full tilt guy?
Well, I had about 30,000 or something on there, and I'd also won a. I think I'd won a $20,000 live tournament thing. I think it was some TV thing that I'd won an entry to.
Nice. Okay.
But so they gave me back the money I had in my account, and they didn't want to give me the money back. They said they weren't going to give me the money back, this 20K for this TV
for the package
thing.
Equivalent, right? Yeah.
So then I sort of said, well, okay, send me your lawyer's details and send me the contact of the DOJ, etc. And then they came back pretty promptly and said, okay, here's your 20K.
Oh, so you did get it back then?
Yeah. Well, I made it clear I wasn't going to just let
them take it.
Yeah. I mean, even if it cost me 100K to get back the 20K, I would have done it.
Right.
Just as a principle.
Yeah.
You can't let people scam you without consequence.
Marco has a question, actually. I was wondering about this. What does he know about the CEO of Pokerstars accusation? Yeah, the Pokerstars insider trading thing. You see that? The David Bazoff, the alleged insider trading happening, and the kind of shady business dealings with the family members back to it goes back years. It seems like it.
I haven't followed the details. I mean, I've seen the allegations, but I don't have any value to it on it really, apart from what's out there. I mean, it is. You can see the share price move ahead of the event. So it's very likely somebody knew something. And, it's a question of who and how that worked, But the authorities, the AMF in Canada, will investigate, and I guess they'll come to their conclusions.
Who knows what will happen with that? I guess is insider trading, according to obviously, like I said, all I know from hedge funds is from the show billions, shop to billions, and it seems like insider trading is pretty big in this hedge fund world. Is that something that happens?
When you say it's big, you mean a lot of it happens?
Yeah, a lot of it happens.
A big consequence.
A lot of it happens.
I don't know. I don't think a lot of it happens these days. I think it used to, maybe a long time ago, it used to, but now there's a lot of regulation that prevents insider trading, and there's a lot of rules and regulations, and you know, everyone's in the industry is professional. They understand what the rules are, and some of the authorities are very proactive in you know, trying to track it down and chase it up, and there's a lot of measures in place.
We don't want you to break TOS over here. We don't even have to talk about this. I don't even want to know. Listen, I don't even want to know about the question, man.
Well, you asked it.
I take it back. I don't want to know. I don't even. There's no right answer to that question. The answer is no. The answer is no. I don't know. No insider trading is happening. I don't know anything about that.
Some is happening.
No,
but I just
there's nothing.
I don't think it's as prevalent maybe as people imagine.
Yeah. I'm looking at this list now. We got a lot of fun things on the list. I guess I'll ask a fun question. Sex said, who are your favorite 2+2 posters?
Favorite 2+2?
Do you have anyone that stands out in your mind, or a couple people?
Well, I think there's lots of good posters. I think the thing with 2+2 is, and I think it's great overall, but you know, it's a great way to keep up with what's happening in poker. But there is a very high crap to value ratio. So, you know, let's say, I don't know what the number is, but let's say in MVG, for example, where it's very high. Let's say, you know, 80 to 90% of it is crap. But in the 10%, there's some really good stuff.
I agree. Yeah.
If you go into the strategy forums, like you know, tournament poker, you know, MTT, I would say the ratio is much higher of value to crap. There's still crap in there, but it's not just garbage or people just arguing backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Just pointless stuff that no one's interested in. But you know, there's still some crap. But that is better. Poker theory is also very, very good. Good.
Don't tell them they're going to come in and fuck up there. They might go mess that up now.
Oh yeah, well that's true. Yeah.
Stay away from poker theory. Stay away.
But it's good posters. I mean, there's lots of good. I would say maybe my all-time single best poster, I would say, would be Rusty Brooks in Poker Theory, because he's been posting there. He's a mod on in Poker Theory, and he's just very helpful. So you know, people come in with questions, and you know, people misunderstand things in theory a lot, and you know, he never seems to have a problem with, you know, just patiently explaining. You know, it's something he understands. You know, and he's answering the same question in effect hundreds of times. But you know, somebody's come in with a misunderstanding, he'll sort of correct. And people just asking all the time the same. You know, like, you know, if you've got the best hand, isn't it better to run it twice or something? Or you know, and he'll explain no, you know, or you know, people misunderstanding what GTO is. You know. So
GTO is a way of life, clearly.
Yeah, so I think so he's good mod. He keeps the forum straight, you know, on the right lines, and he makes good posts, and you know, he's not sort of he's not big-headed. He's very knowledgeable, but he's not big-headed about it. You know, he just says when he doesn't understand something, or you know, it's beyond him, or you know, doesn't try to show off. Do you think there are a lot of big-headed people in the tournament world? Yeah, it's a big ego industry, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
But I think he's very good, and you know, but there are lots of good. You know, it's almost pointless to name. There's so many good ones, but I think actually the other thing to say is I think 2+2 owes a lot to its mods. The mods in general are very good. The moderators in general are very good. They're not getting paid. You know, they just do it to be helpful to the community. They you know, they're having to filter out loads of this crap, and you know, there's all sorts of misogynistic or racist stuff they have to get out and get rid of, and people start diving into politics and derailing. You know,
sounds fun already, Poppy. I'm excited. Let me go read some of this now.
Love that job.
Jesus, yeah, let me go read that.
Yeah, but they're there day after day. You know,
we need like a smart forum of just like people that we want to read about and like.
Maybe, I don't know. There was something like that actually. Was it like the Red Forums or something? There was
something like that.
One site, not on 2+2, but another site had a kind of forum where only certain approved people.
Yeah, they're actually
professionals.
It should be like a forum like that.
Yeah, but I don't think it was as good, because you get then a narrow range of views, and also there aren't enough posters then to make a discussion. Good kind of dialogue. So I think I think you have to accept some of the crap. But I think what would be good is to have a kind of what do you call it, like a rating system of some sort, so that people could.
Oh, you can ignore certain posters that had a bad rating.
Yeah, well, I think you can do that already.
Wow.
By individual.
Yeah, individual.
But you could do it. So but also you could make it so if people sort of indicated who they thought were good posters or bad posters, you could kind of show that rating somehow on there, and then people could then. It kind of qualifies the comments, and people can decide. It helps people decide how seriously to take something. So a poster who's been around, say, a long time, or who people say does good stuff, people might then listen to them a bit more. This is, say, a new user of the forum would find it easier then to know that was worth reading, and that this other guy who's writing a load of crap is, has got a 0 rating, means, or negative rating is don't take it too seriously. So I think that might help sort of clean it up a bit, because then I think those really bad ones would just disappear eventually.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that come to 2+2 and they don't even know like who to trust. I guess you have a post count, you have a sign up date.
Yeah, but post count.
I should definitely.
I know. Still crap.
I know.
They just keep going, and they've got people telling them you're talking crap, but they just keep going.
How they do it? Like, you think I'm like, man, if you focused on something else in your life as much as you focused on just leaving these like terrible contributions to the community.
But also why? Like, what drives them to? Like, what fun do they get out of writing crap?
I don't know. Maybe they're completely like unaware that what they're posting is not very, like, maybe in their own world.
People are telling like, you're writing crap.
Yeah,
they just like,
I guess from
just more of it.
From just like seeing people in Vegas, I can understand. They just like they don't believe you. They think you're. They're just that. Yeah, it's.
I don't know.
No, I agree.
But in a sense, it's part of what makes the forums what they are. And you can.
I guess, man, they're terrible. I mean, I love 2+2. But shout out to 2+2. I love 2+2. Yeah. It allowed me to get to this point and have a podcast. Basically, everything I was sort of born was on 2+2. But the sub forums I think are good. In certain sub forums in high stakes PLO, which is kind of dead now. Small stakes PLO is good. The full ring forums and no limit are good. As you mentioned, theory. A lot of the other, but like, there's a bunch of good forums, but like the main ones, News Use Gossip, BBV, yeah, definitely.
BBV, I don't even ever.
Yeah, I haven't gone in there. I haven't gone there in 2 years. They used to be my spot too, and now it's just like
a different world. It's not, yeah. So I'm basically in the. I post mostly, I would say, in MBG, because most of what I'm posting on is
relevant to those topics. Yeah.
But I consume a lot more from
other.
And mostly MTT, strategy and community, and from poker theory.
So what kind of motivates you to be a voice amongst the people in the community in NBG and talk about, because people really, they enjoy hearing what you have to say. You have a very knowledgeable viewpoint on things and on situation, but what motivates you to even share those opinions or even stay up to date on the things that are happening?
I think that's just part of being in the community, and I think if there's something affecting the industry, it's an important hobby for me. It's an important part of my life and how I spend my time. I know a lot of people in the industry, and if there's something that's affecting the industry where I feel I could make some kind of useful comment on it or contribution, then I feel I should. And sometimes that's been in areas that impinge onto finance, where I might know a little bit. Because poker players, in a way, most poker players don't have a lot of, let's say, work or industry experience.
What do you mean? I worked at McDonald's when I was 16. That's not work experience? What are you talking about?
Office experience. And so they yeah. But apart from your
experience, come on, kid.
Okay.
I guess it's not a good job.
Apart from flipping burgers.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So sometimes the perspective, I think it's part of what makes it a useful forum is people bring different perspectives. And so because I have a particular perspective, I think it's useful to bring it. In the same way, like I read on there, sometimes there'll be an issue and a lawyer will come on.
An alleged
some
lawyer.
Lawyers who play poker. Oh, yeah.
Some alleged lawyer.
Yeah, but there are some genuine ones in there as well.
Yeah.
Lawyers who play poker, and when there's an issue that impinges on the law, then they come in and chime in, and that's great. I think that adds value. So, I try not to just post where I haven't got anything useful to add. And usually what happens is I don't post in most threads, but once I start posting in a thread,
then you're going to keep.
I usually kind of,
people are quoting your posts, they're asking you questions, and they're
leads on to it. And also I've become interested then because I've posted in it, or it's something of interest to start with. I seem to end up posting quite a lot in threads where something's gone wrong in the industry. Actually,
seems that way.
Like Pokerstars have gone astray somewhere, or I mean, I must have done like 100 odd posts on lock poker in one form or another.
Oh yeah, lock poker.
Many. I mean, that was a horrible scam. Another company was just stealing money from players, and bizarrely, it just even when it was blindingly obvious to the whole world
that they were scamming, people were still putting money on there, hoping,
people putting money on there, and the people were still taking their advertisements. So I can't remember, was it? I shouldn't get it wrong. I think it was Car Player, but I might be wrong, so don't sue me if I got it wrong. I think it was Car Player was still taking their adverts to attract new players, to deposit money into something that we all knew, and it was blindingly obvious they were never going to get that money back. That was just terrible. I mean, I felt quite strongly, but I never played on lock poker, I never had anything to do with it, never met the individuals involved. But it just, I just got involved because I thought it was a really terrible scam on innocent players, basically. I mean, most people who read 2+2 would know not to deposit there, but the people who are getting caught are,
would they
would
they
by now.
I think
but it just amazed me how long it went on, how long it perpetuated.
I know, it's pretty long.
And also you had this guy Shane, I can't remember his real name, Shane something, I can't remember, but who we all call Shane, like Shameless. He just kept on, like Baghdad Ali. He just kept, regardless of the fact they weren't paying bad players for months and months and months. He just kept coming back on and saying, everything's fine. We're just putting in a new, we're just updating our systems, and then the payments should all come through.
It's crazy.
It just kept, and
what happened to those guys?
In the end, I got fed up of it. So I made a thread, and I went back and I found a quote from every month for the last year or two, where Shane had said, we've got payment delays at the moment, but we're just sorting out, and it should be all right in a few days. And he basically said that every month. He's constantly saying that for years. So I just put up a thread and just put, a quote from each month from Shane saying, everything's okay, don't worry, payments. And of course the payment delays just got longer and longer and longer. And of course it disappeared.
Do we hear what happened to these people? Do we know who owned the site?
Well,
are they back in Nevada? Or are they,
I don't know. No, they were always quite, behind the scenes.
Right.
So the main character was Jen. I can't remember her surname. Jen somebody. I never met her. I don't think she ever shows her face live anywhere. And Shane, I think, disappeared out of the industry.
Under a new name, John.
I don't know. I don't know.
Back Tim.
Well, if I was them, I wouldn't show my face anywhere.
Well, you're hot. Lederer, Jen Larson, GDTV says Jen Larson's the person's name.
Who's that saying Timex watch? It's not Timex.
It's Timex watch.
It's not Timex. It's costs about the same. It's Pulsar. High quality watch there. Yeah.
Pulsar. Yeah. Okay. Jackson asked a good question. He said, if you had to hire one poker player to work for his hedge fund, who would he choose?
That's an interesting one. It depends doing what, actually, because there are different roles within managing money.
Okay.
So there's one of the scale, you have analysis, which is just looking at information and data, analyzing it to try and help draw conclusions about investments. And that's a very different job from, say, trading, where you're just buying and selling minute by minute, which is a very different job from fund management, where you're structuring a portfolio and deciding how to invest. And so it's different kind of characters in those. But I don't know, actually. There are a lot of. I would say that I could imagine some of the more maths-based players like Phil Galfond or Ike.
Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the young prince, Fedor Holes, would he be able to get a job in the hedge fund?
I don't know him, so I don't know enough about him, so I don't
keep the women workers away from Fedor. You got to keep Fedor away from the women. You got to be segregated with the men only somewhere.
You've got competition there.
I mean, Fedor, listen, he gets Woof, you're right. You don't even understand how right you are right now, Talal. You don't even understand how you're right.
He plays chess as well, does he?
He's great.
Chess player.
Even known throwing out some chess. You might play chess right in front of us in here if he was here right now, man. You never know about him. But he might not be hired for the hedge fund, huh?
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know him well enough. But I mean, people like Ike and Galfond, you see exactly the same kinds of people in hedge funds, and I would think if they had chosen a different path in life,
they would have similar
they
success.
could be working in hedge funds or other finance in banks or whatever. It's harder when you come to, let's say you took your more typical poker player. They wouldn't be normally hedge fund materialized because they tend not to be. They sort of, the thing with a hedge fund, if you're going to work for a hedge fund, you basically you get up at 6 every morning, and go to work. Yeah, exactly.
I'm out.
Yep. Straight away, that's ruled out like 95% of.
I'm out. Yeah.
And you don't like have mornings where you get up and you feel like I won't go today. It doesn't work like that. You just go. So that's already just makes a different scene from poker. So
all right. GDTV, who is the professional poker player you respect the most, not in regards to their level of skill, but how they conduct themselves, how they are as a person, etc.
I would say lots of them. I mean, I don't think you could even pick one out. I would say I've met lots and lots of really good individuals in poker. It's like any other walk of life.
You find
good people,
good and bad.
People, I'd say with poker, there's a tendency for people to be, let's say, a little less trustworthy than the average in say the business world. I mean, poker's a game where you're kind of lying half the time, aren't you? I mean, it's what you sort of like professional lying, and maybe it attracts people who can do that more easily than others. I don't know, but if I walked into let's say I walked into a party full of investment analysts, and
sounds fun.
Somebody said, lend me £20. I would have less. I wouldn't even, worry about getting my £20 back.
Okay.
With a poker player,
yeah,
and you walk into a room with poker players you've never met, and somebody says, "Give me £20," you might lend it to them, but you probably don't necessarily expect it back. I don't know. But yeah,
you don't loan money out, right? You said you don't. Do you loan?
I don't do any staking or loaning or borrowing,
piece buying, anything
swapping,
like that. Swapping.
No.
A lot of people ask you.
Yeah, all the time. People are either swapping or buying or selling or whatever. I just never do it. It's just not worth the hassle for me.
All right.
I'm not in poker just to make money, which would be the only reason you would do that. I guess. But and also the aggravation in terms of because anything I do with money then has an impact on my accounting and tax, and has knock-on consequences. And poker is a sort of multinational activity, so that complicates life. It just is not worth it for me to do that.
Right.
So.
Do you see people treating you a certain type of way because they know that you're a man like yourself, you're able to potentially buy pieces of them or put them in tournaments, and if you have money, then I'm sure in poker where people are constantly trying to play these big events, they want to know people with money. So do you find that people may treat you a certain type of way or say certain things to you or try to befriend you in type of ways that you can tell maybe this guy's just interested in that or anything like that ever?
Not for the most part. No. I mean, I think there's a little bit of that, but not very much.
Not as bad.
Yeah, and I think people just know most people wouldn't assume you're stupid, that they can just walk up to you.
Like the guys that used to assume that people are stupid are not in poker anymore because it's just those guys. I mean, yeah.
But also the people I'm interacting with mostly are mostly people at high roller events who are already established players.
Right.
I mean, occasionally someone will mention, they're trying to raise piece to go in one drop or something, and they might mention it to me, but it's not a. It's not something that
happens all the time.
No, it's maybe I don't know, maybe half a dozen times a year I might get asked.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Staking or swapping or whatever.
It's kind of like the thing my mom used to tell me, where when you start making money, all the women come up to you and they're like trying to take advantage of you just because you have money. And I was like, obviously different scale, but when I started doing a lot of poker, I didn't really notice that. I was like, Mom, what are you talking about? It doesn't happen ever.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I don't know. It's maybe it's like overblown. Maybe certain type of people it happens to, the types that are easily taken advantage of, or it's the ones that have a problem saying no, or the ones that
maybe, or people. Probably there are certain environments where that would be true.
Yeah, it's true. I guess the demographic of people you're meeting, right? Like, as you mentioned, the demographic of people you're meeting is in this high roller setting. If the demographic of people I'm meeting is in a scandalous setting, like a strip club, or like even LA, some parts of LA, then you might find those types of people. That's a good point too. Yeah.
I don't find that really a big thing, but then that might be just because I'm ugly.
Oh, but women, bang bang. I mean, hey, you're a married guy, right? Family man. Yeah. I mean, another question was, and kind of on that one, I'm curious about it. Do young hot girls throw themselves at a rich hedge fund managers a lot?
No.
You sure?
Not this one. Well, like I said, I'm ugly, so it's probably I don't think that happens a lot.
You don't think that happens a lot?
If someone was a young, successful hedge fund manager who would be attractive anyway to women, that would only enhance their attraction, I would guess. Perhaps. I mean, because, and particularly, for some kinds of women, it's important. But I think most people who've acquired money over a period of time probably aren't looking for that type of woman. I guess I just don't.
The trophy girl or trophy hookup. I guess.
Yeah. Some hedge fund managers have trophy type girlfriends, but whether they intend to marry them ever, I don't know.
They might. I don't know. Maybe you got friends. Maybe some of the friends. Who are your friends? Do you have poker friends at all, or do you have like
poker friends? Work friends.
Yeah. Do you have like good friends that you talk with more often than not? Those like from your business side, people you've known for a long time?
Yeah, there's people I've known a long time, or people that there's people who used to work for me, for example, or just different. And in poker, it tends to be the people in the events that
the guys that you're seeing and you're talking with and stuff like that.
Because the tournaments I play is a kind of subset really where you tend to get the same players at all these tournaments. So the same people who are playing, say, the 100K one drop coming up will be the same people who play the 100Ks at the PCA or the 300K one drops.
The PLPs of the world. Partouche. Poker Lovin' Partouche. You know him?
No.
Partouche Badiga? No. Indian guy? You don't know? Come on. He's big time Partouche like that. Let me name some names. Tell me if you know who they are.
I probably know him by looks, but don't.
The Indian guy, curly hair, man. Won a spelling bee. Looks like he'd won a spelling bee.
Show me a picture.
All right. He also, his nickname's Pussy Lovin' Partouche. You got to know this guy, man. I'm telling you.
I'm not very good remembering
his
names.
All right. Let me show you pre-LP.
Oh yeah.
You know him? Yeah. All right.
I thought you said Partouche.
Oh,
Partouche. Maybe I pronounced it wrong. Yeah.
Poker Lovin' Partouche, what they call him.
Is that what I didn't know that?
That's what they call him. Mom calls him Poker Lovin' Partouche, yeah. What about Connor? You know Connor Dragon?
Yeah.
Okay, you know Connor. Okay, you know Connor. Who do you think some of the better players are in the high roller things?
Well, they tend to all be good players. There's not any really bad players.
There's got to be some that stand out, though, right?
No one. It's just not that. The edges aren't that big that somebody just stands out miles ahead of everybody else. It just isn't like there's players who are, say, above average, but not. But I would say there's nobody who. Let's say in that 300K.
Okay.
I would mark up nobody to
bang
1.1.
Wow. No one. They're going to be upset about this. There are going to be some rebuttals. I guarantee I'm going to ask Fades about this. Fades is going to definitely disagree with this. He's going to say, no, there's certainly players who are better than other players, Joey. And
there are players better than us, but not in a high roller like that. There is just not any really totally standout players. I mean, if you ask me the main event, for example, I would say some players are worth a 300% markup, and no one ever pays that. But if you're talking about
Jamie Gold charges that markup actually, I think on his website. He does. He actually does. I'm serious. He does.
Where can I sign up?
I don't on his website. I'm telling you, I'm not kidding you. He can. He does. He's a coach. He's a coach.
Wow.
Wow. You ever play with him?
A little bit, but but I've seen him.
Yeah,
I've played with him, but not that many hands. But I've seen.
Buy a piece of him Buy a piece of him right now, 300%. I'm serious.
That's a bargain. Where do we queue up?
I don't know. These questions in here are.
There's hundreds of questions coming. How do you pick the ones to choose to ask?
I don't know. You see them sometimes. You want to get some shout outs? Let's get some shots. It's been a while. Bruno Malavazelli, my buddy in Brazil. What's up, puppy? Uncle Frankie, do you love BBC? Come on, man. East Coast Grinder, what up, kid? Nikola Dokovic, what up, what up? OG1 Monster, what up? Mr. Derp, Gene Paulson. Uncle Frankie, thank you for the question. I appreciate the question. The answer is maybe, I don't know. Come on, puppy. Come on. Trevor Gill, what up, man? You want to give us a couple shots, people?
I can't, it's going so fast, I can't read. Who's this, Uncle Frankie?
Yeah, give him. He's asking.
Is he irregular?
Nah, I mean, yeah, kind of weird guy, but I like him. I like weird people. He's kind of like he's one of my guys.
Ruben M. Is he a regular?
Hola, Coma. Yes,
I know what is that.
Hola, Cola, Mosa.
What is that? Oh, is he like can't spell? He's got a problem with the A on his keyboard.
It's Spangermish. Spangermish. Yeah.
The A's stuck.
Nah.
He needs to unstick. He's dropped some Coca-Cola on his A key in his keyboard.
You don't ever type like that to people, or you like put a lot of letters like this in the chat? You don't ever do that?
No.
Oh, that's not up. Okay, all right. Nick Glenn, say what up with Nick.
Nick, hey Nick.
What up, Nick Puppy? Thanks for the Snapchat.
Aaron Sanders.
Aaron Sanders.
Puppy. Who's this? Ruben. Talal. He's Scottish, obviously.
Talal.
Who else we got?
Good question. ONC. Sam Leslie.
Sam, where's that? Oh, the Oracle.
Well, that's a good question. What is the biggest motivating factor for your
life?
The biggest motivating factor for you in your life, Talal. That's a great one.
Family.
Yeah.
No question.
Family in terms of supporting, taking care of all the above sort of thing.
If you had to say, what would be your first priority that you would put before everything else, then that would be
family first. Yeah,
absolutely.
I
know all levels of my family.
What would you say your biggest accomplishment in your life is? GDTV asks.
I don't know. Actually, I suppose family again. Just bringing out my family.
Yeah. Pertaining to poker, you mentioned before we were talking when we were walking the reel. You mentioned there's some parallels in terms of what makes you successful at in the hedge fund world and what makes you successful at poker.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about what you think those parallels are?
So what makes
what are the qualities that you took over from your 30 years managing money that you're able to then put into poker that make you have success at poker?
I mean, I think having worked in money management made it a lot easier to pick up poker quickly because in essence, poker is very similar. You both are dealing with management of uncertainty and of variance, and in a way, a poker game is about arbitraging differences in how people price particular uncertainty or particular risk. And money management's the same. It's ultimately it's about price of risk and how you balance risk reward. And so the same kinds of skills apply. So if you think of a good, what makes a good money manager, or some of the things a good money manager needs, like what kind of character are they? They tend to be, or if you think of a trader, particularly somebody who's trading is probably the best analogy. So somebody who's trading, they tend to be even-tempered kind of people. They don't get overexcited or too depressed, because that happens a lot I see it a lot in money management and in poker. So people who have a bit of success in money management, so they had some good, they say they had some really good returns the last couple of months, they tend to get overconfident. They think, right, everything I do now is going to work, I'm sort of indestructible. And if they have a couple of bad months, they think, oh shit,
I'm flexing, kid. I don't know what you're doing. You're like flying, you're trying bicep or something like that.
Yeah.
You're hitting the gym. God damn, son. Look at this. Okay, hold on. Okay.
This is nothing.
You got some kid. I mean, you're busy. You're busy. It's not it.
Yours may be suntan.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, I got a little something there. A little something. Okay.
I'll hide it.
I just thought, I don't know. I saw you like do something. Like, the fuck? I thought you were like flexing, like Jay Kuhn or something. I thought you were pulling like a muscle over there.
Jay Kuhn is like,
Has Jay Kuhn ever gave you a bag? Kind of like diverting off side. Has he ever gave you like a one of his Jay Kuhn rubs, like a 20-second rub that just pumps you up so much?
Really?
Yeah, he did to me the other day during the 10K PLO, and I was like, man, I feel so reinvigorated. I had a short stack, all of a sudden I just, boom, started cutting. I know, it was like the most reinvigorating rub I've ever gotten. Not in like a sexual way, come on, calm down, guys. It was like a very friendly, like, we're buddies. It's like come on. Yeah. You got this.
Just like your neck.
Like the back, like here, the back. I'm telling you, it was great. If you don't listen, if you're out there, you need one of these from Jay Kuhn. I'm telling you, it's GTO. It's good. All right, let's go back to me. Sorry, we got distracted by your money.
For money managers and poker. Yeah. So it's this kind of even temperament, and people have bad periods in money management. They tend to get depressed and think, "Oh, I'm no good at this. Can't do it anymore." So it's the same in poker. People tend to overreact to their recent pattern, and actually it's just really small samples in a big picture. So an even temperament, I think, is the same. You need that character in both.
So you having an even temper at what you do when you play poker. Also, I guess
but I've partly acquired that through managing money for years.
Right.
You kind of learn that that's just variance, and you learn to accept the good times, the bad times, without getting carried away.
But at poker, I guess if you don't necessarily care about the money as much, do you tilt really? I mean, you can be competitive. You still want to win, but
I want to win as much as anybody else sitting there, regardless of the money involved. But I do. I tell you what tilts me actually. I do have a kind of tilt, but it's not. It's not really. It's not. I don't have a bad tilt whilst playing. But what really tilts me is when I've made a mistake. Right. Tilts me. And I know I've made. And I think that's really what's tilting most people. So when you see some tilt at a bad outcome, it's usually deep inside that player realizes that they made a mistake, but somehow their self-image means they can't. Their ego means they can't admit it. So it comes out in this sort of flash of anger, or maybe they get heated up and play wrong for
start playing.
So I don't think I do that too bad. I think my play holds up reasonably well. I don't go into some kind of sort of stupid
crazy play. Right.
But although I get there's a bit of that, but it's more afterwards. I'm kind of sometimes I can be thinking for days afterwards.
About it, really.
Yeah, like even that you mentioned that scoop event I won last month. For about a week afterwards. I mean, I was really happy I won it. It was the best win I've had in terms of cash, etc. And it was a tough tournament. I was really pleased to win. But for days afterwards, there was this one hand at the final table I played with Scott Siegler, where there was a close river decision, and I felt almost immediately afterwards I'd made the wrong decision, and then I kept going over this in my mind for
days
and days afterwards. And then when I went to the super high roller, Scott was there, so I had a quick chat to him about it and what he thought about it, and we discussed the hand. And it was still, it's still kind of like annoying me and niggling me that this one hand I got that river decision wrong. But it wasn't like a bad, wrong, stupid kind of mistake. But it was one of those.
You just were unsure exactly what the right play was.
It was one of those close things that I think I fell on the wrong side of that line. Scott actually thought it should be the other side. He thought it was correct.
What you did.
Yeah. But
you're still unsure.
I still think it was wrong. Yeah.
Do you want to share the decision? Is it
it would probably bore you. I can't remember all the exact details, and it would bore people.
We love Nolan Hold'em tournament hands around here. Nothing turns us on more than Nolan Hold'em tournament hands.
But I mean, to cut it to its essence was, by the time we reached the river, I knew in his range was a very high percentage of ace and some ace X, and ace gave us straight on the river, and I would have won if he had the ace. I still won.
Right.
So the question was, do I bet or
do I
check? And he comes back and
he value bets his ace.
Yeah, does he value bet? So I judged he would value bet. He didn't.
He checked back.
Yeah, checked.
I mean, yeah, that makes
the question was, is it better to have checked
your bet that spot, right?
Yeah.
So you checked in the moment, thinking that he'd value bet his ace. So where was 2, 3, 4, 5, and
and I think there's a case you can make for both. I mean, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to talk about it without going through how you got to that point.
Right.
Because otherwise because in isolation it doesn't mean very much, that question. It's how the hand got to that particular point. Then the question makes sense. But anyway, that was niggling me for
niggling you.
Yeah, it was like it's
niggling you.
I was gonna
really that word.
Yeah, it was kind of just come up in my mind every now and then.
So even though you won the damn tournament.
Yeah, I won. I was still. I'm not saying I was unhappy. This over. How do you even overall the win?
What did you feel when you won the tournament? So you won the Scoop main event. I've never won a Scoop main event on that field. So 1.4 mm. Probably I don't know if that's a good day in the life, or if I don't know exactly where that falls in the spectrum of things. But how are you feeling? Walk us through. How are you? What are you thinking? Excited? You take a.
I'm just happy. I'm happy I won the tournament.
You just sit there okay, and then just go to work. What do you? I don't know. What do you do?
Well, a bunch of people were texting me or messaging me or whatever. Had a couple of conversations, but basically, yeah. I mean, I just got on with life.
At the office.
But it's the same. What do you do when you win a tournament? It's the same thing.
Well, I earn $1.5 million in tournament. True. Okay, it's good point. Fair.
Yeah, the money's not going to change your life. Let's say you win a tournament and you've won.
Yeah, you're right.
A good one. What's the biggest tournament when you've ever had?
I don't play many tournaments, Bobby.
Okay, well,
the biggest tournament. Let me tell you, the biggest tournament one I had was at O'Shea's back in 2007 when I lost all my money playing Texas Hold'em bonus at the Venetian, and I went there and I won a midnight tournament for $575. That was the biggest tournament one I ever had. I felt fucking amazing. My bankroll at the time was $575. Yeah. And that started my online poker career. I felt amazing. And then I also won a VFW tournament, one of these local things with my stepdad. I won one of those for $950 too, recently, about a year. So those were my two wins. I felt fucking amazing, by the way. I felt great. I was man, maybe I should be playing more Nolan home tournaments.
Maybe I should.
I played less than 10 lifetimes.
No, you cashed the tournament.
That was PLO. That was a great game of Palo in Omaha.
Yeah. So you've had. You've had tournament cashes.
I've got 3 World Series events, one World Series cash.
So you felt happy after those, I guess.
Oh yeah, I felt good.
Yeah, but I mean, I felt good not because there were just. I was happy there was more money in my bank account, but I felt good mainly because that was a tough tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's 10K buy-in with whatever, I can't remember, 800 or 900 players. It's a
tough field.
It's a tough field.
Yeah.
So I felt
challenging.
I felt good about winning because it was a tough field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not the biggest field tournament I've won, but it's the biggest. If you combine the strength of the competitors and the number of competitors, I would say probably
pretty similar to the
O'Shea's.
Kind of the O'Shea's $45 field, midnight field.
Very similar.
Pretty similar.
Same people.
Yeah, drunk people. You got people fucking. Very similar field. Okay.
It's probably. I would think at least 90% overlap between those two.
Probably, I could see some of the same guys playing that. Yeah, that's true. So I guess that's a pretty good feeling then. So you win the tournament. Yeah. Next day you go to work. That's it. What was it? Monday, I think I'll do it, right?
I can't even remember. Yeah, next day. The following day I had some meetings in London. So.
What a life. What a life, Poppy. Wait. Okay, so I was trying to. So coming up to the podcast, I got excited because I said it might be our first billionaire on the podcast. Are you actually a billionaire? Is that true? Is that we going to talk about that?
No, I'm not going
to.
I'm going to tell you.
I want a billionaire on the podcast. Can you tell me if we have a billionaire on the podcast? I don't even understand what it means. I don't even know what that even means. On a thing of I don't even. Yeah, it seems like a crazy thing. I don't know.
It's sort of irrelevant though, isn't it? Once you get past the certain
right. That's what I would. Is it irrelevant to you? Is it irrelevant to? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. Is it irrelevant to people that get to a certain level, or most people get to a certain level of net worth, and they're like, well, I mean, not much difference past this point. But I'm sure there's some people that are fueled by that number that they have, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of. After a point, it's for people. It can be a way of keeping score.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Unless you have something that you particularly want to do with the money. I mean, in my case, I've allocate a lot of time and money to philanthropy.
Right.
So if I make more money, then I can do more with it. But
I just realized I asked you the question, like people say, so much like money do you have? And that's not the question. I just want to know if the billion, I just want to know if that was correct.
Basically the question you asked.
I know, I just want to know if this was correct, man. Like, we want to like check the box off on the podcast bucket list here, man. I don't know. Oh man, the billionaire.
You'll never know.
I'll be a billionaire one day.
Might be.
What can I do to be a billionaire one day? How do you even get to become a billionaire? I don't understand.
What is it like?
I don't know. It just seems fun.
But it's not an ambition in itself, is it?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It's only worth something if there's something you want to do with that billion. It's not.
So you don't seem like you're very like money hungry sort of thing. Like I don't get that like sense from you. But obviously you have to be to have success in like the field that you're in, right? Like you have to embrace that's what.
Yeah, if you're a money manager, your job is making money.
Right.
It's you better like money. You're not gonna be a good money manager unless you like money.
Do you think you can be a good entrepreneur if you don't like want to make money? If you don't like to make money, really?
Well, where does your drive come from if you don't? I mean, you could be an entrepreneur who wants to build a particular kind of thing. Like you're in it to build a certain business or build something that doesn't exist today. Mm. But most entrepreneurs are driven by
making money,
wanting to make money.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. All right.
That's how our system works.
I know. Pokerstars showing us that well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pokerstars showing us that well.
Yeah.
Ali says, ask him if he owns a super yacht or an island.
Ali,
ask him if he owns I had to turn down the
battery. If he owns
a super yacht or an island.
No, to both questions.
Fuck, man. Come on.
Is that what you'd buy?
I don't know what I don't really want to buy. I don't need anything. I got like everything I want. I don't really.
Well, me too. Like,
yeah.
Why would I want a super yacht, first of all? But B, what a waste. Think of the resources that what you could do with those resources.
We talked about philanthropy, and you're really big into philanthropy too. I actually read an article that said you're one of the biggest philanthropists in the United Kingdom. So I guess what does that exactly mean? I know philanthropy. I have the general idea, but what's your sort of outlook on that and your approach to that?
Well, philanthropy just at its simplest form is just helping other people. Helping strangers. So you can think of it really as an extension of what everybody does. If you're walking down the corridor and you see an old lady coming the other way and you hold the door open for her,
you're a philanthropist.
You're a philanthropist.
I'm one of the biggest philanthropists in the Rio Hotel and Spa and Casino for
Excellent. Sure. Yeah, you're a philanthropist. And if you see somebody who's lost and you help them find their way, you're a philanthropist.
But your form of philanthropy is helping out financially.
Yeah, another form is you either giving money or not just money. You can give time and
your knowledge. Potentially.
Yeah. They talk about time, talent, and treasure. Time. So you can give all of those three things that can be of value to people. So it's just finding. In my case, I'm trying to find what the areas of greatest need in the world and trying to help there, and also trying to find the place where you can get the most bang for your buck in terms of the upside you can get from spending the dollars.
So are you big with like the reg charity thing that the poker other poker Live and Igor and they're involved with?
Well, certainly talk with them and met the people they're working with, and I follow similar principles. I mean they have the same basic attitude, which is where can we achieve the most upside with our charitable dollars. So it's very, very similar, but it's not. We're not operating together doing the same thing.
Okay.
But it's very big overlap.
What's like the biggest thing that I think I said for the first time on the podcast. What's the biggest thing that you're being philanthropic towards? Philanthropic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, which form of the word? Like, how do I use this word properly in this situation? Yeah. What's like the GTO thing right now that you're sort of focusing on?
Well, I'm in a process to try and figure that out because it's not an easy question. It's
like an impossible question.
Yeah, well, it is an impossible question.
It's like a subjective question as well. Like, what do you think is the best way to spend your money?
It is subjective, and in the end, you have to put some values into it because you can compare some things in numerical terms. So, somebody's worked out the cost of saving a life in different scenarios. So in different countries, for example,
right?
That's what. Yeah, Somalia, it might cost $400. In I don't know, Argentina, it costs $4,000. I don't know what the numbers are, but people can make those comparisons, but you can't really compare different kinds of help or when you're relieving different kinds of suffering. So, for example, let's say you could treat somebody with AIDS in Zimbabwe for X, and you could prevent a rape in Namibia for Y, whatever. It's how do you compare the value? How many rapes equals one life? You're ending up with questions no one should have to answer.
Yeah, for sure.
For real. And there's no scientific method to compare. You're just
so at some point what do you do in that spot?
Well, you have to say in your heart, what's the answer? You can't. There's no way you're going to get at a mathematical answer. Right. But you can get quite a long way with using a more sort of scientific approach.
Mm-hmm.
A very good example is if you compare. It's an example a philosopher in this area used. He compared the cost of providing somebody with a guide dog, a blind person with a guide dog. In North America, that costs about $40,000 because you have to train the dog and you have to train the person, bring them up, and then the sort of lifetime cost of providing something with the dog is $40,000. Well, for something like, I can't remember, it's like $40 or $50, you can cure somebody of blindness in the third world. There's certain kinds of eyesight problems that you can treat very cheaply. So roughly speaking, if you've got $40,000, you can give one person a blind dog, or you can save 40,000 people who couldn't see. You could allow them to see now. That's
that's kind of the trick. That's what you.
Yeah. Then you do that. You can sort of start thinking about, well, okay, now I think I want to go this way rather than that way. It won't answer all the questions, but you can
give you a starting point. You kind of go from there and figure things out from there.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is kind of a combination of that and also trying to follow my heart as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done quite a lot of traveling and studying in the area to try and
spend time there, see what it's actually like, and
so I did a trip to Ethiopia, for example. Did a trip to India, a trip to northern Iraq. I've seen different parts of different aspects of poverty in particular, and seen and come face to face with people facing quite severe problems of one sort or another. So in Ethiopia, for example, we went to a drop-in center for sex workers. So basically, these ladies would essentially work at night and then sleep during the day. They would kind of go to this place and they have showers, and a medical center and stuff. And you can sit there and talk to some of these ladies who earn their living, barely a living, as prostitutes.
Some type of life, right? I mean,
but when you hear their problems directly, when you hear from them directly, it tells you, it gives you more of a sense of understanding in your heart, but also you can understand their problems more, because when you hear about them, if you hear about that issue from a charity organization, or if you read about it in a book, it tends to get simplified, so they just sort of try and characterize the problem as a whole. Because when you talk to these ladies, they've all got their own individual stories. There's not one story of how this happened or how they're treated or what their problems are. They've all got different. They're like you and me and everybody else in Las Vegas. We've all got our different backgrounds and problems and so on. It's the same for them.
It'd be crazy to die. I can't even imagine that, experiencing that, being face to face, hearing these stories. I feel like you'd want to help everyone you meet out, essentially. Well,
that's the problem. Is you want to just. You can't. We're in a world of limited resources. You have to choose. Right. That's hard. It's not. But I think it's important to make the effort to choose well, because the downside of making the wrong choice is big as well. You can have much less. You can have much more impact by making the right choice, particularly if the amounts of money are large.
I guess in that situation, you have to make a choice and embrace the choice. You can't really second guess yourself.
Well, you'll never really know whether you made the best choices.
Yeah.
You just have to.
I mean, I guess
you have to make best. But that's true of lots of. I mean, it's true of managing money. It's true of poker. It's true. It's limited information. You gather as much information as you can.
Right. And then
analyze it as well as you can, and then at some point you have to say, okay, now I know as much as I know. I know I haven't got the perfect data set, but from what I can see, this feels like the right way to go.
Yeah. I want to find a question my buddy Evan asked a little bit earlier. Hold on.
Oh my God, there's thousands.
There's a lot, kid. Evan said, my buddy Touche, would love to hear thoughts on crypto, like BTC, Bitcoin, and Ether. I actually don't. I've heard this thing, Ethereum.
Yeah, Ethereum. Yeah.
Ethereum.
Yeah. So what's he saying? He wants to know my views on those.
Yeah, your thoughts on cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really an expert on them at all, but I mean, I haven't invested in them. I don't have any Bitcoins or Ether. I would be concerned that if you own those, you're always running a risk that, well, you're running a risk that it's not properly regulated. So when we've already seen exchanges go bust from time to time, and problems emerge, and this stuff could all just disappear, and overnight it's theoretically possible. And you also have a regulatory risk, which is that ultimately governments and central banks don't like people moving money around or moving value around where they can't see it and they're not in control of it. And so they may act at some point to do something about that. I mean, so far I've been very surprised at how accepting governments have been. I think on the one hand, they don't like the lack of control, but on the other, they want to encourage new technologies and new developments. So I think they're a bit torn. But if you see Bitcoins, etc., used more and more for illegal transactions, or if you had a couple of cases where it emerged that terrorists, for example, were using it, or big gun runners or drug smugglers, I'm sure drug smugglers are using it, but a couple of high-profile cases could be enough to have governments act against those currencies, and then, of course, the value would just collapse. So,
like that's the way if somebody wants to sabotage Bitcoin in a way, that's something they could stage, set up, whatever. They could do something like that.
Oh, they could, if they wanted to stop it, they could. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, they could stop banks ever dealing with exchanges, or I mean,
they could just ban.
They can do it if they really wanted. I mean, I know people argue that they can't, but I'd be amazed if the US government, for example, didn't, wanted that to stop. I think they would find a way to make it stop. I don't know the technical basis for it though.
Let me ask a couple questions. I saw 2+2.
Actually, just to finish on that, I think the other thing with those currencies is I have a deep problem with them, which is I've got no basis to value them. Everything else that you buy or sell, you have some kind of basis to know what it's worth. It's like if you buy gold, at least it's got some value as an industrial metal, if nothing else. With cryptocurrencies, who's to say whether the value of one unit is 1 cent or $1 million? I just don't, who's to say? And that's problematic for me.
I guess the who is to say? I guess what the people that set the price. Well,
people trade it, and that's what.
Right.
That's what
that's what
supply demand. But I mean, I just there's no demand floor for it. There's no.
Right.
There's nobody who must have it for some purpose, or there's no. So
for you, it's essentially not worth the gamble to really be involved with it at all. Just kind of wait and see what happens, and then go from there.
Yeah, I just don't know. If I mean, I'm talking from the point of view of trading. I mean, if people may have uses for it that goes beyond any kind of investment value. If they need bitcoins to do certain things, that's a different question. But if you're talking about investing in it, I would say I just can't see a basis to know how it should be valued. And so in the end, you're speculating on how much other people will want it in the future. And I just think I'm not very well equipped to do that. But other people maybe are good at that.
That's not what you've based your 30 years off of, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not the way I would like to invest.
Ask him about what steps he takes in his life to maintain concentration during Scoop, WCOOP, World Series of Poker. Do his employees at the office think of this time as a vacation?
Well, yeah, I mean, the last couple of years when I've done Scoop, the whole time I haven't, it's not been that situation because it's, I'm not now working full time like before, so it's a different kind of situation. Yeah, before it was a holiday. If I went to the World Series, to play the main event, that was a holiday. It was part of my leave, and
so they still do things back home, and
oh yeah, the office carried on operating. I mean, it's the same as if I took a holiday to the Maldives.
You take a lot of holidays.
Well, not then I didn't.
But now you're big.
Yeah, well now I have a lot of free time. The time gets filled up, but I have time to do the things I want to do much more than before.
What else do you like doing? Maldives.
Yeah,
Ibiza.
No, never been there. Traveling.
Kind of not your. I don't know if it's your thing, but it's beautiful.
Is it?
You don't need to go to like the crazy part of Ibiza. You can just go to the.
No, my sister went there and she liked it, but I just have never been there.
Is your sister crazy?
No.
Oh, well, a lot of crazy people like Ibiza.
Yeah.
Like me.
That's make it a bad place necessarily. I just don't. Just never been there.
Yeah. Oh man, it's great. You know what you're missing, kid. You gotta go there.
There's too many places there that you have to visit.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. There is a lot.
You can never go everywhere that you should want to go.
Right. Have you been to a lot of places? How many have you been to? Like, do you have like a bucket list of places that you wanted to go, or do you have like any places you'd still like to go that you haven't been?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of. I'd like to go more or less everywhere, but I've visited a lot of places. I mean, China, Japan, most of Europe, North America. I haven't been anywhere in South America ever.
Olympics coming up, Rio.
Yeah, but I probably won't go to that. But I just don't. You just don't have time to go everywhere. Right. I've never been to Australia as well. Actually, that's another one.
I've been there. I lived there for a while.
Oh, okay.
Met her in Ibiza. I met the
woman. Oh, right. Is that the basis for most of your travel?
Sometimes. Maybe, yeah. But it's like a good basis, though, right? It seems like a good basis to have.
Yeah, but Australia and New Zealand. I think the thing with us, if I went to Australia and New Zealand, you'd have to go there for quite a long time.
Right, it's so far. Well, like Aussie Mines is there.
It's not just that it's far; it's that it's also spread out. So you have to fly between the different parts.
Yeah, I guess you have to go from Sydney to Melbourne.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
If you want to go to Perth or wherever.
Yeah, and then New Zealand.
New Zealand, you can fly over there too.
Yeah, so it's not a kind of place you can just go do a short trip.
Right, like like in Europe where you can just train everywhere.
Europe would be much easier to do.
Yeah. I've never realized how close Europe everywhere is together, but you can pretty much take the train sort of like anywhere. To different places. And the train systems are amazing. They're very fast and very efficient and easy to find. And
well, it's not that they're amazing. It's that the American one is crap.
Well, I'm comparing it to America trains, and American trains are kind of like the nut low. So it's.
I don't really understand America. Why you don't have more trains? Because you have these huge long distances.
Yeah.
It's absolutely cut out for more train services.
You'd think, right?
I don't know why. Yeah. So everyone drives everywhere. And it's really long distance. And people here don't seem to think anything of driving 3 or 4 hours somewhere.
I know. And then you go to Europe and you just take the train different places. And it's great.
Yeah, if somewhere is 3 or 4 hours away, normally you're going to take a train in Europe. You're not going to drive.
You're not going to drive or fly or anything like that.
No, I mean you might, but I would imagine most people in that situation would tend to take the train. If it's longer than 3 or 4 hours, people would fly.
See what else is on here, kid. We'll wrap it up here in a little bit here. Let's see the history. What's that to say? Asking you. Of course, you'd be okay. Would you ever invest in a poker site now?
No.
I didn't think so.
Well,
nope.
Actually, no. Right. It depends whether you mean buying a poker site or investing in it.
Whoa!
I wouldn't buy a poker site.
Come on, kid. Why not?
It's just too much regulatory crap and
what to deal with,
and reputational risk and but it's just
come on.
No, I'm not.
Papi, come on.
Sometimes I would feel really tempted to.
Yeah, you see other stuff. Yeah, you're like, fuck this.
Sort stars.
How does it feel to be able to buy a poker site? How does it feel? Potentially buy a poker site.
What do you mean? How does it feel? If
you're not doing it, I can't buy it. I don't know how it feels. How does it feel?
Well, I'm not doing it, so
it
doesn't feel any different to you.
You could buy it though.
Yeah, but I could do 10 million other things. So could you. Like you don't. If I said to you, how do you feel about the fact you could
Probably
travel to Ireland
I'm
tomorrow.
probably gonna feel pretty great about it. I feel great about that.
That you can travel to Ireland tomorrow.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, well,
Sounds great. Yeah.
it's kind of like that. Like,
Oh, that's how you feel.
I'm not really thinking about how how it would be because I'm not doing it. But that's different to buying shares in a quoted operation. But that would just depend on the price of the stock, and it'd be like any other investment. I just evaluate the outlook and the price you pay for it.
Were you one of the people who shorted the amaya stock at some point in time?
No, I've never traded amaya stock at all.
Okay. You're not up millions of dollars from amaya? Okay.
No.
Okay. Let's see.
It's a tricky one to either buy or short. It's very
well because it seems like there's people that have inside information.
There's stuff you don't know.
Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of stuff that some people might know and that maybe you might not know. So.
Yeah, and there's risks that are quite difficult to evaluate as well, like regulatory questions.
Right.
Quite hard to assess them.
Allegedly. Insider trading. We don't know for sure, of course. To be determined by a court of law, obviously. Right? Is that true? I think that's true. Okay. That's true. I think that's true. Yeah. Let's see. We asked that question. I think we got that one.
Well, you're not accusing anyone in particular, are you? So.
Listen, I don't know what's happened. Okay. All I know is what I read on the internet, and I read the allegations on the internet. So that's all I know. Could you ask him the question of what can an applicant do that would set themselves apart from others when applying to work at a hedge fund? That was from my friend on Facebook.
What would set them apart?
Yeah.
Well, it's like applying for any other job. You have to stand out by being, well, your resume has to look good. So that means your educational background. I think any hedge fund. It depends on the job you're applying for within the hedge fund, because people think of hedge fund as kind of one.
But as you mentioned before, there's a couple different parts. There's
many different jobs within a hedge fund firm. But if you're talking about the actual managing money, people tend to start usually as analysts, and then so that job is about assessing companies, going through their accounts, going through research, meeting the management, just trying to assess the future of the company and the business. That's the kind of, you could think of that as the entry job, and the people who usually get those jobs would be graduates from good universities, quite often mathematical type graduates, but not always. People economics, but it could be. One of my fund managers did history degree. One had economics. There's actually lots of different backgrounds you can be, but you have to. I think a prerequisite is you have to be intelligent and academically so, because you're not even going to get the interview in the first place if you don't have. If you don't have. Even
if you know someone, does it work like that? If you know someone of someone or something like that?
It can a little bit, but mostly.
If they know you, they can eventually get an interview.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't. It's not. Like hedge fund managers aren't going to take on people just because they know them. It's a tough job, and in fact, you wouldn't really wish it upon somebody who wasn't going to be good at it. It's not an easy job. It's and for the wrong character, it's probably one of the most stressful jobs on the planet. Because what really makes stress is when you can't control immediate outcomes. So somebody as a money manager could work very hard, say for a month. You could work really, really hard this month,
make nothing,
and make a negative number at the end of the month.
Sounds like poker to me.
And it doesn't matter, and you can't do anything about it. It doesn't matter if you pedal harder. It doesn't matter if you work, 24 hours a day for 30 days of that month. You still can't control those short-term outcomes. You can only do your best. That's stressful because. Stress arises most when you don't have control of outcomes. So it'd be good. So a prerequisite is you need to be intelligent, and you sort of normally demonstrate that to some degree through academic background. Usually, somebody shows a lot of initiative, communicates well in interview. Shows there's somebody who is very interested in the business. But it is very competitive. A lot of people, leaving top universities, probably the biggest job that they want to be in is hedge funds. And the hedge fund industry isn't that big. We're not taking that many graduates every year into the business. So it's not it's a tough it's a tough area to get into.
So you kind of get the best of the best in terms of people that are applying.
They have the pick of the best. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, hedge funds, you know, it's such an in-demand job. I think people have a perception that if you become a hedge fund manager, you're going to be super rich.
Yeah.
No,
Isn't that right?
no.
Dan Shack, right?
No, it doesn't work like that.
No?
Just being a hedge fund manager doesn't make it's
Are you
like,
kidding me?
well, it's like being a footballer, or I say football, I mean soccer, but let's say American football,
okay,
or basketball player. You know, LeBron James is the only one I've heard of. He probably earns an absolute fortune, right? Like, I don't know, tens of millions a year, right?
Yeah.
But there'll be another, you know, there'll be the players below him are earning maybe a few million a year, and there's not many of them.
That was true, you know, before yesterday. That was true. Now everyone's earning a lot more money in the NBA.
Okay. Well,
yeah, the salaries literally just skyrocketed yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, like literally yesterday. I was like, this is really interesting because they just went up massively yesterday. Yeah.
Actually, no. Get away from sport.
Okay.
Acting profession.
Sure. Let's do that.
Same kind of thing. Millions of people want to be actors, right?
Yes.
So every year, you know, thousands of people turn up in Hollywood or wherever.
They do.
I want to be an actor. Almost none of them really get to be actors. You know?
Very true.
Because most of them just end up, they might get the odd commercial, or if they're really sort of
like having sex with a producer and not getting in the show.
Or whatever. They might somehow get some little small breaks. Or amongst all these thousands and thousands, maybe, you know, a few dozen really make it.
Mm-hmm.
They become film stars or TV stars and make good money. All the others are still actors.
Right.
But they're not making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same in the hedge fund world. It's a talent industry.
Oh my God, that sounds terrible.
A few people make a lot of money.
I'm out.
Most people don't make a lot.
Oh.
And a lot of people just never, you know, they work at it and never get anywhere. You know?
Right. Well,
it's kind of like that. Although I have to say the worst off hedge fund managers aren't as badly off as the worst off actors. So it's not.
bang, bang. I mean, yeah, I guess I've seen some of those in LA. They're struggling.
I can imagine.
They're struggling to survive.
It's the same. It's a lot of any talent industry like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually a lot of money at the top for a few people, and then you have under that a kind of pyramid of people who's essentially trying to get in. Yeah, and because the reward is so high at the top,
mm-hmm.
you have very large numbers of people struggling at the bottom trying to break in. But that means those people aren't going to be doing very well.
Right. Lederer said, ask him how many books you've read.
Ask me how many books I've read.
Yeah.
Well, I've read a lot of. I haven't read many novels, if that's what you mean.
Books in general?
Books in general, I don't know how many books I've read, but
like 1,000.
Well, yeah, but if you include when I was a kid, yeah, I don't know actually. But novels, not very many at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if you include textbooks, like school textbooks and.
How many books were you reading, dude?
I don't.
Back in the day.
I mean, do you mean reading from cover to cover? You know, I mean, it's just, I don't know, like.
You can take the question however you want to take the question. I don't know.
I just don't know how to.
What books do you think you read?
I don't know, like hundreds or thousands, but I just don't know.
So they're probably thousands. If it's potentially thousands, it's probably thousands.
It's thousands if you count books where, like school textbook, where
we're not counting school textbooks. Who counts school textbooks? What are we talking? Who counts school's textbooks? We're talking like
define books.
Not a school textbook. Not like a well.
All right.
Why wouldn't a school textbook count? Let me think about this.
Okay.
I mean, you're learning. You're getting. I didn't think about it in that. I guess that's true. Yeah. Okay. School textbook count, sure.
Well, then probably
millions.
Not millions.
Yeah, professional reader, I don't know. 2,000
or 3,000, I'm guessing. If you count,
a lot of books.
If you count, like somebody said, you know,
go and read
chapter 4 of this. You know,
were you reading 24 hours a day when you were in your grade school or something?
But you've probably read.
Maybe.
What 2,000? I don't know. How many would you say?
No way. 50.
No, you've read way. I guarantee you've read.
Read a small amount of a book.
Yeah, I guarantee you've read more than 50.
Well, I guess back in junior high, back in the day,
exactly,
right? You had 8 classes, 8 books. Yeah.
But also, you when you were a kid, your mum probably read books with you, or
maybe
you probably had some a few books that you had at home.
You're really getting technical about this question, aren't you? You want to like break it down from like
well, otherwise, how can you answer?
I'm not disagreeing with the breakdown of the question. It's an interesting way to break down the. It's different than most people would break down the question. You ask me books they read, they give me an answer. You're like, why? What kind of books are? Did I open the book? Is that reading the book? You know what I mean? It's like it's an interesting answer. I'm just taking the answer in. I'm observing the answer. I'm asking questions about the answer. So, you know.
Well, that's what philosophy students do for a living.
Oh my God!
It's a question.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. You answer the question and get another question right away. I think I want to study philosophy. I'm going to be.
I'd like to learn more philosophy. Actually. Yeah.
I would too. It'd be fun. What is your favorite book?
Ooh, crikey.
I hope there's not. Is there a lot of questions for what's your favorite book? That's an easy one. It seems like.
I find it hard to pick out. It's like if somebody says to me, "What's my favorite film?" I don't really know because
Rounders.
There are different films. If it could be a comedy film, might be one thing, or there's lots of different films I like. Or what's your favorite pop song? I don't know.
That guy you mentioned about Poker Theory, Rusty Brooks, has to be feeling so fucking good right now because that's the only time you actually
made a name.
Yeah, like, just name something. Rusty Brooks, like. He must be amazing. Like I've never seen his post. He must be amazing, though.
Well, no, that's because you put me on. Well, he's amazing, but that's the danger with that is it would then seem like some of the other posters aren't really good. But there are many good posters on there. He's just one that came to mind as a good poster.
So, what about what's one of your favorite books that comes to mind when I say what are your favorite books? Just one that pops in there. Could be any genre.
It would probably be one of my investment books that when I first learned investment, and I was quite keen on understanding, more about the theory and so on. I guess one book I liked a lot there was a book, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was basically some guy had gone along and interviewed a bunch of different money managers.
Tony Robbins. He did the same thing in the Book of the Money. I mean, technically, kind of. It was similar. Yeah. Maybe not hedge fund managers, but they were.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't remember.
They actually were.
But anyway, he was money managers like George Soros or whatever. So he wrote a chapter on each about how they go about the job and what they do.
It's like Tony Robbins' book. They just put out Book of Money. I don't know.
It wasn't called the Book of Money because I would remember if it was.
It's something like Mastering the Game of Money or something like that. That was about.
It might be Money Masters or something.
It could be that, yeah. That's what we did, though. That's the same thing. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's
could be.
But I remember that.
It's a good book.
That was a book I read several times because I thought.
It's a recent book, though.
No.
Oh, this is a recent one.
No, this is.
It's old, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
This thing 30 years is like.
No, this was like 20 odd years ago.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. But I think it might have been called The Money Masters. But anyway, I like that book. And it was, I read it at a time when I was kind of getting into the business and I was, really eager to learn more. And these were the top guys and I wanted to know how they did it.
Right.
So and it influenced me a lot because it was, I learned from it and it also made me go and explore in different directions and also gave me something to think about in terms of, not just how these guys ran money, but what they did with their lives as well. So I think that was, if you're asking me just off the top of my head, that's probably the book I can think of that stood out for me.
What's your favorite poker book? Do you have a poker book?
I got so many poker books.
Okay.
It's my favorite one. Again, I hate picking out individual things because it's always more complicated than that. But
the elements of poker.
No.
I mean,
that was okay. But I think.
Shout out to my boy Tommy.
Yeah. Let me see. I spent the ones that were most influential for me were the Harrington books.
Harrington and Hold'em.
Yeah, when I started playing poker, that there wasn't much poker books. I mean, I had Phil Gordon's little green book,
right,
and little blue book and little whatever book. I think there were three of them, and then I had the two Harrington books, and the Harrington books were the best books I think at the time on Hold'em. So, but today those would be like people would laugh now at those. They're not state of the art books, but for their time they were definitely.
Shout out to my boy Dan Harrington. What happened to Dan? I don't know where Dan Harrington is, but
I've seen
he still playing
tournaments in the last few years. Yeah, I don't know whether I haven't seen him.
Who was that one guy? All In. Oh, his nickname was All In. Hoyt All In Corkins.
Hoyt Corkins.
Is that his All In? He shoved all in. Is that the guy?
I don't know whether I don't know.
Let's get an all-in guy.
Name all in.
Yeah.
Hoyt Corkins.
What happened to all these guys? Just be on TV? Why aren't they play? Where are they at?
Oh, I don't know. I saw Hoyt Corkins actually, I think, a couple of years ago in a, not playing poker, but in one of the casinos here in Vegas. Yeah, just saw him at one of the tables playing craps or something.
Well, maybe that answers their question right there. Maybe that's what happened.
That's where it's gone.
Could be what happened to him. All right. What are a couple last one? What are your thoughts on Phil Hellmuth?
Phil's really interesting. I like Phil actually as an individual. You know, he does all his antics on TV, but he's two different characters. When he's not doing his antics, he's a really nice guy. Really.
Yeah, in Big Time You ever? Seen her Big Time You?
No,
not really.
No.
Okay.
But I like him. I like him as an individual, and people as a player, some people think he's just terrible.
Sure.
Particularly like the maths players.
Unorthodox.
He's unorthodox.
New age.
And he does
outside the box.
He does some stuff that is demonstrably wrong. In terms of short stack play, and if he was playing online, he would get crushed on any sort of high limit.
Maybe.
But having said all that, I think he would. But having said all that, he does have he has more focus, I think, when he's playing than anybody I know about. He's extremely tuned in, at the table, and he really wants to win. His will to win is unbelievable, and he also, I think, plays very well against players who aren't the sort of top,
right? The weaker players.
He's good at exploiting weaker players,
yeah.
And I think he's good at sensing their strength. Like he somehow can sense. Obviously, talking live here, I think he gets a good sense of their strength. He doesn't always get it right, but he does that better than most people can do. So yeah, you wouldn't. I don't think I would say, and he's been around a lot longer than me. And he's a. He's always telling us how many bracelets he won or whatever. But
sure.
He's been around. He's survived poker.
Like many others haven't survived.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of people have dropped along the way. He's kept going, and he still gets results in modern tournaments. But from my perspective, I would say I wouldn't rate him as the best player out there. In terms of if you sat him heads up with, I could probably name 50 players who would sit down heads up with, and I would bet on the other player. But and particularly if it was online. But but in terms of
the live tournament
winning in a kind of, let's say, an EPT tournament, I would rate him pretty high, actually. Yeah, very high. He does very well in those things, and I think he has a skill set that works well with that mix of players in that live environment.
All right, let's leave it on this. Give the people one piece of poker advice out there if you had to give the guys listening some advice. Poker advice.
Again, there's lots of different things. It depends who it is.
Maybe share one piece of poker, one piece of life advice.
Advice. Well, poker, I guess. It's a good piece of advice. I would say learn to treat uncertainty and risk and as your friend. Like, kind of embrace uncertainty and variance. I don't feel it's the enemy. Think of it as a tool as well as a problem. It's a tool people can use against you, and you can use against others. But I guess learning to embrace that, I would say, is it's true in money management, but it's particularly true in poker, I think.
You could say that's also the piece of life advice. Learn to embrace your situation, right?
You can.
Embrace wherever you're at or whatever you're doing, or make the best out of whatever your situation is, whether it's, like an example is if you're in the Rio, embrace you being in here. If you're staying in downtown, if you're staying in a small motel, like you said, complaining about your situation, you embrace the situation, you embrace your surroundings, embrace where your life's at, and then work towards making it whatever you want it to make it.
Yeah, think of the positives in
life,
but also particularly of uncertainty. And it's not, people naturally fear uncertainty. We like things to be, we like to understand things and feel, comfortable, because we know what's going to happen. But in life or in poker, uncertainty isn't always bad. It's part of what makes life what it is. Why life's something. The fact that you don't know which restaurant you're going to eat at this evening.
Actually,
a piece of uncertainty.
Technically, I have a dinner meeting with my boy Chuck. Shout out to my boy Chuck and his daughter. What up, kid? Technically, I do.
Okay. All right. Well, which girl are you going to go out with tomorrow?
Whoa.
Maybe I should.
Shout out to the star. Hey. Oh, come on. We're live, puppy. We're watching this
next
right
week,
now.
Next week.
Okay. Now we're talking. That's true. Shout out.
But I mean, you know what I mean. It's like there's things we don't know about our future.
That's a good example, actually. You're right. I don't know. It's a good point. Okay, that's a good one.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. Oh, I agree. I'd embrace it. It's a great thing. Yeah. Could be. Anything else you want to add?
Well, that's an open-ended question.
Shut boy. I should have. Knew I was opening myself up with that one. Yeah.
Anything to add? Well, I mean, on the subjects we talked about. I think we had a good chat about this thing. I think the
podcast room is going to be on your side, puppy. You got the 50K coming up here. You got to register for that.
Yeah.
Did you already register for that? You just got 50K in your pocket right now. You're just going to go hand them 50,000.
They've already got the money.
Okay, I was like, you just go down there. Boom. Okay, here you go.
Some people do.
Well, yeah. I don't know.
It's funny.
50K chips in your house. Just go down there.
When it was the they had the $1 million one drop.
Oh yeah.
Some people registered for that.
Just brought in a case of $1 million.
Well, no, it'd be like a pile of dollars, in batches, and then some chips from about 4 different casinos.
Oh wow!
There's a couple of people tweeted photographs of their buy-ins, and they were hilarious.
It's pretty sick.
It's just like Bellagio chips and chips.
You play that? You played that?
Play what?
You played that event?
The one drop.
Yeah. The $1 million one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I did too. I was in it.
Yeah. Was that after the $45?
This was before. After. A couple years after. I lost with aces to aces. My name's Connor Trinan. Yeah, that's my name. Shout out to my boy Connor. He's probably watching this at some point in time. But that's it, guys. Be back probably soon. Sooner than later.
Who's your next guest?
Probably maybe Liv Boree or Dan O'Brien or
Yeah.
Hollywood Accent gonna be on. Fader will be on. Not sure who they should get on. Who do you think? Who do you recommend?
God, you've had almost all the people on already. Everybody's been on your podcast.
Yeah, a lot of the greats, man. A lot of the.
You do really well with this.
Yeah.
I was asking you earlier. You said you've done them like 100 or so.
A lot. Yeah.
That's amazing. And you get everyone on here as well. That's also
kids like you on here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because you do. It's because you've done a good job so far.
Right.
But then when you ask somebody, I guess they're more likely to come on because you've got a kind of history and a pedigree.
Yeah.
The podcasts have kind of gathered a following of, you've got tens of thousands of people who tune into them, and I think that probably leads to them, more when you ask a new guest on, there's more interest, more reason for them to do it, more interest. But also, it's just like people like me are then watching your podcast. So we it's kind of we getting something out of it. So it's
dare I say GTO, man?
Yeah, exactly.
See, now you get it, man.
So you become like the Pokerstars of the poker podcast business.
No, I'm more like the Oprah of the poker podcast show.
The eyeside Pokerstars.
Yeah, I kind of am though. I mean, I kind of am. Like I just want to.
Well, you've got these network effects now. You're the place to go for the podcast.
I hope so. I mean, I feel like I do a good job.
Yeah,
making fun.
As long as you just stop talking about PLO so much, then it'll be.
What are you talking about, man? You crazy? What do you mean you can't talk about PLO? We didn't even talk about the great 4-card game of PLO on here. Oh my God! I'm like, yeah. You don't like PLO? PLO is great.
No, I like. Well, actually, I now prefer playing the mixed games than to Hold'em because I'm learning less. In Hold'em, I'm learning less than I am in those games.
Mixed games like mixed
just
games.
Any of them. Yeah, any game that isn't Hold'em. I now like playing those.
Okay.
I actually, while I'm playing them, I'm not good at them, but I enjoy.
You're learning them.
Yeah, because the learning process I enjoy itself.
Okay.
So particularly playing these events at the World Series, you're playing against good players.
Right.
And the only time I play them is Scoop, WCoop, or.
So wait, isn't the 50K Players Championship a bunch of random games?
It's 8 games.
8 games.
Yeah.
And you know how to play one of the games.
I can play one.
Right.
The others I can sort of get by in. Yeah.
You're learning though.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Okay.
When you sit down with these guys and playing 10K scoops on 2 to 7 or something, you
learn fast.
Yeah, you look.
Yeah. Well,
but I'm still a long way behind.
I expect you to final table now, please.
Okay. Well, with the run good.
Do me a favor. I mean, you don't want to play 7 of the games.
Yeah. Well,
Is PLO in mix?
Well, actually, the only one that matters is Hold'em anyway, because that's no limit. The rest.
Oh, they all limit.
Well, it's PLO.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. But you should play because you know one game as well.
Guys, I'm selling action at 50K. Anybody wants to buy one? Let me know.
You should do what do you call those things where you people buy what's that like Kickstarter?
Kickstarter, yeah, I could do it. I could probably sell action for 50K.
You could do that.
I could.
You could do it for probably like the 25K PLO.
I could already play that.
You're going to play it?
Well, I am not going to, but I could.
I'm sure you could. Yeah.
I could sell action.
But you're a top PLO player, right? So
debatable. It depends on if your definition of top PLO player is someone that currently wins at high stakes PLO cash games online. Then I suppose maybe yes. Yeah.
Isn't that how else would you?
Well, some people might classify it as who's GTO and everything like that. Who's this? Who's that? So
who wins the money?
I would classify that. Yeah, I personally would classify it as that. Yeah, I would classify that. Yeah. Who's winning? In the games, it's hard these days to really tell who know for sure who's good or who's bad.
That's true, yeah.
Because everyone's so spread out. People are playing live. People are playing at different sites.
But is there other people you wouldn't sit down with and play, or you?
I like battling.
Yeah.
Depends what stakes.
So would you play more or less anyone?
Like 6 max, yeah. Yeah, I like battling. I mean, at high stakes, no. We're playing lower stakes, yeah. That's how you get better.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just I never said that on the podcast. This is the first time I ever said that.
That you said what?
That's how I got better at PLO. Just battling.
Battling.
Just like battling for like fucking years straight.
Yeah, well,
instead of just battling. Well, no, people don't do it. They don't do that. They don't battle. They take the less variance route.
Oh, I see. You mean
right. So I dealt.
Okay, so you moved up.
I dealt with much higher variance over a short period of time to increase my skill level high to a point where now my variance is lower because my skill level is higher because I went through that period of time where my variance was higher because I'm playing.
I 100%
really good players. Yeah, that's.
Well, I'm like an extreme version because I'm sort of parachuting to the top end of something I know absolutely nothing about.
Right.
So your learning curve is like. Boom.
Yeah, you're like debatably like. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's the optimal approach, but whatever.
No, it's definitely it's definitely not advisable sort of approach.
Yeah. But I could, I mean, you're a very, very extreme example. Because most people just can't last in that element. They can't be battling the best players at the highest stakes because they're just not going to have enough money to stick around.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be sensible for, as a general approach. No.
Yeah. All right, my bad. Now my period. Let's wrap it up. Guys in chat, much love. Appreciate all the comments, all the questions. Be back soon. You can follow me on Twitter. Obviously, everybody does, whatever. Update on there. You don't have Twitter, Instagram, nothing, right?
I don't.
Snapchat?
I'm not even on
Snapchat?
Facebook. No, I don't even know what Snapchat is. I've heard of it.
That's okay. You don't need to know.
I'm not on Facebook.
You don't do the nude photo thing, right? You don't need Snapchat. Then. You're fine.
No, I don't need Snapchat.
You don't need Snapchat.
If that's what Snapchat is, then no.
I don't do things like that, of course, but
I've
heard. Allegedly, this is what happens.
Your reputation's impeccable.
I don't do things like that. I promise you.
You've heard people do that.
Well, yeah, it's becoming bigger. Guys, we're out. Peace out. Much love. Thanks for all the comments, questions. Adios. See you later. Adios.